Chapter 757. Ending silently. 1. Subai stood below the mountain peak and gazed upward at the elders who were in a conference. If he could convince the Ancient One, the issue wouldn't escalate. The next step would be to inform the head of the Clear Sky School. Both the sects got along well together, but the northern region and western region always had different motivations. If something were to happen, they'd bear the brunt. B0X. The Clear Sky School and the Bright Moon sect had significant influence and status. Even if something happened, it would give them enough time to react. However, the Mountain Sea Sword sect and the Astronomical Academy were closer to the south and would certainly be reluctant to get involved. The Bright Moon sect's proposition was akin to putting their entire family fortune up to a gamble. If they won, everyone would be happy. But if they lost, then someone would have to sacrifice themselves to buy some time for others. However, it would give them enough time to think of something. If their defense was good, the pressure would be less. For now, Subai could only guarantee some sort of cooperation between the Clear Sky School and the Bright Moon sect. It would take no less than 3 months to settle matters with the other sections. A vague claim wouldn't make others willing to put everything at stake. That would be unrealistic to expect. He didn't know how the North and West would react. However, if they were to act, they would surely send communication. If that happened, they would be facing it together. Atop the star platform, the Ancient One and others discussed for a long time. They were unsure how to approach the other immortal sections. The Clear Sky School might be fine with it, but the North and West will surely hesitate. If they refuse, we'll be in a do-or-die situation, someone said. But what if someone can actually balance the 4 pillars? Asked the Ancient One. Do you have anything that can prove that? The Ancient One was speechless. There was no evidence to prove anything. There was simply no way to know whether the eruption would actually happen in the next 3 months. They weren't entirely convinced themselves, so persuading the other sects was even more difficult, especially those sects that were already dealing with their own crises. Let's at least initiate communication and see what happens, someone said. After activating an artifact, everyone waited. After a short while, an elder emerged with a peculiar look on his face. How did it go? Asked the Ancient One. The elder lowered their head. The North and the West agreed. Everyone was speechless. At that moment, a middle-aged man said, "All right, now that a consensus is reached, let's clear out the unnecessary things to avoid any confusion later." At the Black Heavens sect, Baizhu arrived at the Sun and Moon Peak. Xianyuan Tai was in the trial area. Xianyuan, he guarded the place. If it were someone else, she wouldn't have let them in, but Baizhu was an exception. They wouldn't have succeeded if it hadn't been for her. It wouldn't be fair to prevent her from entering the place. Baizhu sighed and tapped the stone covering. "Seen your brother, Xianyuan? Are you there?" There was no response from inside. Xianyuan, he was at a loss. "He'll get straight to the point," Baizhu said solemnly. "We're in a do-or-die situation in the south, and we might need the Xianyuan sword's help. Please, could you ask for its help in the matter?" Baizhu didn't want to die. She was still young, with endless potential. Someone like her couldn't be at the front line, and yet, here she was. Fate had played its hand. There was no escape. All she could do was face it and seek help from the Grand Earth Emperor. She could only hope that he would assist, and she would have a chance at survival. She had no intention of leaving. This place was probably the only place where the influence of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl could be withstood. It wasn't because strong individuals resided in the south, but because the Xianyuan sword that was once wielded by the human emperor was here. Perhaps it could protect a small area in the south. If the 4 great immortal sects could hold out long enough, she might still have a chance at survival. Xianyuan, he felt puzzled, but remained silent. Jiang Hao stood on the boat and waited quietly. He occasionally checked the stone tablet, but there was no exchange within it. He wasn't sure how things were going. The 4 great immortal sects wouldn't notify him if they chose to intervene. This time, the impact of the inevitable was vast, and he had limited options for escape. If Hong Ye didn't act, and the 4 great sects hesitated, his life would be at great risk. Weakness was one thing, but he seemed to have become arrogant recently. He foolishly thought that reaching the late stage of the return to Void Realm meant that nothing could affect him. Gradually, he started believing that he would be able to deal with any danger that came his way. That had led to the current crisis. If I survive this time, you'll need to be more cautious. Meanwhile, Hong Ye sipped her tea and observed the ever-increasing size of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. 3 days later, Jiang Hao heard a rumble. In the sky, the 4 major constellations sparkled, and an immense power descended from the heavens. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. It had begun. Meanwhile, in the south, many of those in the shadows also detected an unusual aura. People from the Great Thousand Gods sect noticed it too. They retreated and avoided involving themselves in the matters of the south. Although many didn't understand what was happening, they all began to withdraw. Even Fenghua retreated discreetly. On the other side, the end of all things became even more bold. They previously hid in the shadows, but now they entered the city and performed blood sacrifices in the open. They aimed to support the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. At the moment they were about to succeed, thunder surged from the sky. Boom! Countless members of the end of all things vanished. A figure descended from the sky. Their gaze lowered upon the individuals below, and flames ignited around them. No grass grew where they stepped. Everything was incinerated. In an instant, all the members of the end of all things turned to ashes. This is so troublesome. I still have to visit a few more places. The end of all things always likes to play these petty games. They should have stopped when they had the chance. They become so brazen. The figure arrived from the sky and disappeared into thin air. At the Black Heaven sect, Bai Zhu waited. She wasn't waiting for the Xianyuan sword to take action, but for the outcome. Chapter 758, ending silently. 2. Whether it was a failure or a success, she needed to know before she decided to leave. However, at that moment, a sword intent soared into the sky. It then disappeared without a trace. Bai Zhu was somewhat surprised. She hadn't expected the Xianyuan sword to make a move. As various changes emerged, Zheng Shurjiu and his team found the number of demons dwindling. B0X. Calm, it's not the demons that are retreating. It's the forest itself. Shurjiang was shocked. The forest had expanded rapidly just a while ago, but it had stopped and was now receding. That could only mean that there was some major change happening within. The only person who had entered the forest was senior brother Jiang Hao. Was it really him? It wasn't just her. Everyone else was in disbelief. The danger here was apparent, yet he had charged straight into the depths. This left them puzzled. Perhaps someone like that wasn't quite suitable to be in a demonic sect. Above the vast sea, Jiang Hao saw a large platform emerging from the water. It appeared after the 4 pillars were charged. A red essence attached to the pillars and balanced them. So, this is how they balanced the power of the pillars. Jiang Hao sighed and leaped onto the platform. At that moment, he held the immortal mountain sea shield in his left hand and grasped the primordial heavenly blade in his right. The golden ring hovered around him, and the 9 heavens battle armor seemed to merge together. A purple aura enveloped him. All the powers were resisting the pressure from the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. Jiang Hao stood on the platform and stared at the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. He raised his shield and took out the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. He didn't know exactly how to use it, but the moment the pearl appeared, he could feel the seal becoming stronger. The Earth Extreme Silent Pearl was now rapidly shrinking. Jiang Hao stood on the platform and saw everything. He had brought out all his divine items. He hoped they would protect him while he tried to suppress the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. He was also prepared to flee. If nothing worked, he would escape to the corpse realm. High above in the heavens, the power of the stars descended, and a sword intent also hovered in the sky. An aura pressed down on everything. It was the Xianyuan sword that carried the aura of the Grand Earth Emperor. Xianyuan Tai provided assistance via the sword as well. At that moment, the power of the seal erupted and suppressed the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. As Jiang Hao waited as the power of the seal became stronger, the pearl went from the size of a star to that of a mountain peak and gradually shrunk to the size of stone. At that point, Jiang Hao had lost track of how long he had been waiting. Had it been 3 days or 10? His gaze remained fixated on the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl as he waited for the perfect opportunity. As time passed, Jiang Hao's eyes were fixed only on the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. At some point, the pearl had shrunk to the size of a small bead that could fit into his palm. Yet he waited. It wasn't enough. His intervention now would not affect it. He couldn't seal something that was already so powerful. He could only seal something that was already sealed enough. This had been true for both the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and the 9 Nether. All he could do was wait. After a long time, the 4 supporting pillars seemed to weaken. They showed signs of collapse. The Earth Extreme Silent Pearl shrunk to the ultimate size. At that point, his power moved. His divine ability, the reappearance of the hidden spirit, appeared. He swallowed pills that enhanced his cultivation and herbs that replenished his spiritual energy. He activated the Mountain Sea Seal and the universe in a palm. In an instant, the purple aura surged toward the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. This was his only chance. If he failed, everything would be finished. At the Astronomical Academy, Jing Dajiang and others mobilized the Academy's power to support the 4 pillars. However, after half a month, their power was almost depleted. Although there were people on the opposite side balancing the power, their resources were limited. At most, it would hold for half a day. They would stop when their strength was exhausted, and then the great eruption would be inevitable. Half a month passed. Although they had made many preparations, the outcome was unpredictable. "Elder, why do you blindly believe the people on the other side?" someone asked. Jing Dajiang sneered. "How could I trust them? I trust someone else." "What about the title of the book?" the white-haired elder asked. "It's not just a book title. It's a code. Behind that code is someone we can't refuse." Jing Dajiang sighed. "Since this code has appeared, it means that we can trust the person behind it." The crowd was puzzled, but Jing Dajiang didn't say much. He just hoped for a change. At the Bright Moon sect, the forces mobilized by the Ancient One and others were also depleting, and the suppression had reached its limit. It wouldn't be long before the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl would erupt. So, he didn't understand the use of this temporary relief. Around him, endless stars were spinning, but there were no signs of any change. They could only wait till the final moment. After a long time, he felt like this was the end, but nothing happened. Just as the power began to deplete, the Ancient One suddenly saw a flash of purple light rushing into the stars. This purple light was hard to capture, and it quickly dissipated. Along with it dissipated the power of the 4 pillars. They were already struggling to hold on. However, there was no eruption. "Is it him?" The purple aura that had helped the Bright Moon sect before. Su Bai looked up from the foot of the mountain. He knew that discussions were going on and efforts were being made. Half a month had passed. The power of the stars had been activated and was now gone. It seems to have succeeded. If it failed, something would have happened. It wouldn't have been so quiet. He breathed a sigh of relief. In times of great change, no sect benefited. Maintaining the status quo might not be the best, but it was what most people hoped for. With a light chuckle, he turned and left. "Good morning, Senior Brother Su," said a junior as she greeted him respectfully. She was rushing with some spirit herbs in her hands. Su Bai nodded and watched her leave. Many things had come to pass. Everything seemed quiet and peaceful now, but they had averted a huge crisis just moments ago. This was what he knew now. Perhaps there had been other calamities that had been handled just as quietly that he didn't know about. In Devil's Den, the forest had completely vanished. This surprised Zheng Shurjiu and the others. The forest that had made them feel so powerless was gone. There was only one person who had dared to go in. Was this all thanks to Senior Brother Jiang Hao? A few of them found it hard to believe. How could that be possible? They were perplexed as Jiang Hao appeared in front of them. He looked somewhat pale. Shaoli was the first to rush to him. "Senior Brother Jiang, are you all right?" "I'm fine," said Jiang Hao. He had just appeared from inside the forest. The seal had been successful, and the whole place was about to be sealed, so he had to come out. He was seriously injured. He needed to return to his house quickly. Han Yuye had left for some unknown reason. By the time he had regained his senses, she was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps he had been safe because of her. Let's leave from here. There seems to be a shadow in the depths. Maybe something else is inside, Jiang Hao said. He couldn't take credit for the achievements here. The Heavenly Note sect didn't know the seriousness of the situation. So, the achievement, even if it was credited to him, wouldn't be too unbelievable. Everyone wanted to leave this place as soon as possible, so no one objected. They headed out immediately. Jiang Hao didn't linger there. He returned to his residence and began to heal himself. Many days later, around early July, Jiang Hao finally opened his eyes. Fortunately, he had various divine abilities on him. Otherwise, his recovery wouldn't have been so easy. At that moment, he took out a purple bead from his storage treasure. There was a small, green pearl inside the bead. It was the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. It had almost killed him. He now had both the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl and the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. IV1 Ida and Tini Rucher. Tini's 2 pearls would kill him. Dut roar now. All any could do was continue to seal them. He also needed to understand the things connected to this pearl. Everything had happened too quickly for him to take the time to appraise the pearl. Only now he found the time to appraise it after everything was sorted. Chapter 759. Junior Brother, do you want to take your name down from the Law Enforcement Hall S suspect list? Jiang Hao sat cross-legged in his place of cultivation and thought about the incident, which had mostly depended on luck. Everything had happened so quickly that he had tried to find a temporary and immediate solution. The ones who could help had fortunately appeared at the last minute. If there had been no stone tablet, things would have been catastrophic. Fortunately, he had met Gu Jin. Otherwise, the West would have delayed in providing help. Every aspect had depended on luck. To him, it felt like he had been very fortunate that things had worked out. B0X. Calm during the sealing process, he dared not be distracted and was uncertain if his effort might be in vain. Everything just exceeded his limits. If he hadn't forced himself, he couldn't help but shake his head. It was best not to dwell on it. When he was sealing the pearl, it felt as though all the energy and spirit in his body had been sucked dry. Moreover, the 4 pillars collapsed and were engulfed by the seawater. It was uncertain whether they could be used again. He had no idea how the outside world was reacting to this. He could only wait for the next gathering to find out. For now, he needed to focus on his own condition. He needed to understand the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl in his hand. He used his daily appraisal ability. Earth Extreme Silent Pearl, sealed by the universe in a palm. In ancient times, someone traveled across the land and visited myriad races. They sought the creatures of heaven and earth and collected a drop of blood from countless beings, regardless of strength. After countless years, the collective blood and flesh coalesced. Under the influence of time and careful preparation, the well-preserved blood and flesh began to merge and started absorbing the surrounding blood and flesh. The converged point experienced wars among creatures and absorbed endless blood and flesh. It transformed within the heavens and the earth, and now it's complete. When sealed, it can subdue the physical body without fear of aura suppression. 7 days later, the seal will be broken. If it's not sealed again, it will distort space and absorb the blood and flesh of all living beings. The earth will return to silence. Jiang Hao quickly reinforced the seal within the universe in a palm. Once the pearl erupted, he would be crushed within a breath. However, there was still a possibility of escape. The Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl was already terrifying enough. Among the 2 pearls, the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl still posed a greater threat. After sealing it, Jiang Hao put the pearl aside and then took out the fragment of the Earth Extreme Heart Devouring Pearl. This time, there was no reaction between the 2. Moreover, the appraisal result indicated that the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl was now complete. It might mean that it had become independent of the Earth Extreme Heart Devouring Pearl. Next, Jiang Hao took out the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and the 9 Nether. The 9 Nether seemed scared when placed between the 2 pearls. It was already slow-witted, but now it might have entirely given up on using its brain. After showing the Nine Nether its new neighbors, Jiang Hao put away the items. Once the gathering began, they would discuss the fate of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. If those people were interested, he could give it away. If the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl erupted elsewhere, he would have time to plan his escape while the other sects attempted to seal it. If it erupted where he was, it would be a matter of life and death. The Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl couldn't be handed over because if it erupted, he would definitely die. Sighing, Jiang Hao walked to the courtyard and looked at the peach tree. His mind was not at peace. He needed to find a way to calm himself so he could continue his daily life. The changes in the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl had affected Devil's Den, but no one knew the exact situation. The Heavenly Notes sect would also be busy with their own affairs, as usual. At most, someone would come and find him to ask about it. He had already prepared an excuse to distance himself from it. At night, the spirit beast returned with a few fruits for Jiang Hao. "Master, have you come out of seclusion? Shaoli asked me to bring these over." Jiang Hao accepted them. They were white. He took a bite. They tasted bitter. Could these even be eaten? "You have them." He gave the fruits to the spirit beast. He hoped the spirit beast could eat them. Nothing seemed to make it suffer. At that moment, he glanced at his interface. He wanted to know how long it would take him to advance further. It had been a long time since he last paid attention to it. Name: Jiang Hao. Age: 35. Cultivation level: late stage of the return to Void Realm. Cultivation method: Heavenly Sound 100 Revolutions, Hong Ming Heart Sutra, Divine Ability. 9 Revolutions Death Substitution, Unique, Daily Appraisal, Clear and Pure Heart. Reappearance of Hidden Spirit, Divine Might, Revival of Withered Tree, Heavenly Cauldron, Indestructible Vajra Lifeblood. 48/100 can be cultivated. Cultivation: 46/100 can be cultivated. Divine Abilities: 1/3 cannot be obtained. Golden Legend: 1/2 cannot be obtained. 48. Halfway there, Jiang Hao thought about it for a moment. From October last year until now, almost a year had passed, and he was only halfway through. Candlelight Pill Pavilion soon. It was almost time to receive the high-grade spirit herbs. Even if it meant a loss, he had to continue. The next day, Jiang Hao began his daily routine and waited for the stone tablet to notify him about the gathering. However, half a month passed without any messages. He did receive a visit from Lu Xingchen. It had been a long time since he had appraised Lu Xingchen. He didn't know his condition now. Jiang Hao praised him. Lu Xingchen, true disciple of the heavenly faction, born with the aura of the true dragon, an undercover agent for the Heavenly Notes Sect's law enforcement hall. The seed of evil bloomed in his body, and it now nourishes the 3 remnant souls. When his original essence is stronger than the evil influence, he can suppress them easily. Due to recent events, he bit off half of those 3 remnants to observe the changes better. Presently, his cultivation is nearing the late stage of the soul ascension realm, but with severe side effects. He needs time for everything to settle before completing a smooth advancement. He came to find you because, apparently, you've done something astonishing yet again. The seed of evil blooming within him? Jiang Hao was surprised. This was something he hadn't anticipated. However, it seemed that everything was under his control. As long as he could suppress it, there would be no problem. If he couldn't, he would be controlled by those remnants. It wasn't clear if Lu Xingchen had intentionally allowed himself to be possessed before. However, it was clear that Lu Xingchen had absolute control since he had bitten off half of the 3 remnant souls. The last line surprised him. What had he done this time? "Good morning, junior brother Jiang," said Lu Xingchen with a smile. Jiang Hao politely said, "Good morning to you too, senior brother Lu." "Junior brother Jiang, are you planning to clear your name from the list in the law enforcement hall?" asked Lu Xingchen. Jiang Hao looked puzzled. "Why do you ask that, senior brother?" No one in the entire sect needed to be on that list more than him. The list was what saved his life. Previously, when his cultivation had reached the late stage of the return to Void Realm, he had been confident. However, he now understood that there were even stronger people than himself. It was unnecessary to take risks. He didn't want to venture outside. If it involved something important, he would withdraw immediately and not get involved in anything. Lu Xingchen seemed to be enjoying the show. Right now, the Law Enforcement Hall and the Merit Hall are at odds. They think your merits are high, so your name shouldn't be hanging in the suspect list. Jiang Hao was speechless. Chapter 760. Giving 9 neither a way to stay or not on the suspect list was indisputable. He had always been in danger since he reached the Foundation establishment realm. The most significant threat had been from the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. Now that the Pavilion Master had clarified that he wouldn't act against Jiang Hao, he should be out of immediate danger. However, this is just one side of the story. B0X. Kami didn't know if someone powerful would give in to temptation and come after him. How many times would a person restrain themselves? Once? Twice? If someone had the intention and the means to kill him, they might do it without a second thought. He needed to avoid that at all costs. He needed to be on his guard against the Pavilion Master. Once his name was removed from the suspect list, it would be like an invitation to others. They could act whenever they wanted. He couldn't just rely on the assumption that they might not come after him. If he did that, he was uncertain how long he would be able to survive. It was better to live in peace while tending to the spirit her garden. Besides, being on the suspect list didn't really restrict him in any way. If he was willing, there were always missions available that would allow him to venture out of the sect. He only needed to pay some spirit stones. Others couldn't force him to go out. How could he give up such an advantage? Even if he became a true disciple, the title wouldn't protect him as much. Reaching the return to Void Realm wasn't much. It wasn't enough to make him feel completely safe. Jiang Hao was puzzled. Why do they suddenly want to remove me from the suspect list? Do you not remember what you did? Asked Lu Xingchen. The problem in Devil's Den has troubled many people in the sect, but you went in once and solved it. Can the sect ignore such an achievement? Not just the merits, you would also get a lot of spirit stones for it. Spirit stones? Jiang Hao hadn't reported to the Law Enforcement Hall for any missions yet, so he thought he would, at most, get 1,000 or 2,000 spirit stones. That was probably how much a golden core realm cultivator would be offered. However, Lu Xingchen's words implied that it might be much more than that. He would go and check it out later. I only walked into Devil's Denver. I didn't do anything much, said Jiang Hao. That cannot be verified, so it will fall on your head. Junior brother Jiang, your achievements are rising again, said Lu Xingchen as he looked at him. Within the Law Enforcement Hall, there is a serious disagreement because of you. Some people from the Law Enforcement Hall want to observe you more, so they want to keep you on the suspect list. They think you are too suspicious. No one had ever had so many encounters with spies and traitors like you. Meanwhile, the people from the Merit Hall think that your achievements are exemplary, and such a person shouldn't be suspected. The Task Hall didn't say anything at first, but later they supported the Law Enforcement Hall. Jiang Hao was speechless. Sometimes the Task Hall did things that benefited him indirectly. Will there be a solution to the issue? He asked. It's hard to say. Lu Xingchen shook his head. At this time, you better lie low. Otherwise, it'll be quite troublesome. Jiang Hao want to do something, but there weren't any spies in the sect lately whom he could use. It was indeed not a good thing to have high achievements while also being suspected as a spy. But how could he come up with a way to stay on the suspect list? The ones on the list could only fulfill missions within the sect, but there were always more missions to do outside. Junior brother Jiang, are you curious why the people from the Merit Hall are so determined to remove you from the list? Lu Xingchen suddenly asked. They feel embarrassed that someone with such high achievements is being observed like a suspect, and that might damage their reputation. Jiang Hao said tentatively. That's one reason, but many people think there is no problem with you. The Task Hall also knows this, but they want you to take their missions. Do you think these people are naive? In the past, you made it into the suspect list because of me. But now, you're there because someone wants you to remain there. Similarly, some people want you off that list. Ultimately, they're focused on your achievements, or they're curious about how you obtained so many achievements, said Lu Xingchen with narrowed eyes. In such a large sect, do you think everyone has the same intentions? The Law Enforcement Hall has strict discipline, but beyond that, Do you know who they actually are? Jiang Hao lowered his head and felt pressured. He was pretty famous in the law enforcement hall. The merit hall and the task hall both knew his name as well. Among these people who knew which ones were acting with hidden agendas. This didn't only happen in demonic sects, but also in immortal sections. Perhaps most people were already keeping a close eye on him. They had motives and would do anything to fulfill their purpose. Jiang Hao sighed. Although he maintained a low profile, he was very noticeable, especially among the people of the law enforcement hall. He needed to become stronger as soon as possible and lie low. He decided not to make any more contributions nor associate with spies for now. If he remained quiet and out of sight, their attention would gradually fade away. He needed to be on guard against those who were patient enough to observe him further. Afterward, Lu Xingchen left as he had things to do. Jiang Hao went to report the previous incident. He received a heaven-rejuvenating pill, 16,000 spirit stones, and a spirit sword. The selling price of the spirit sword was 4,600 spirit stones, and the heaven rejuvenation pill could be sold for 7,400 spirit stones. He earned a total of 28,000 spirit stones just from that. For a moment, Jiang Hao was somewhat shocked. It was unexpected. He had around 39,000 spirit stones with him. The total would come around 67,000 spirit stones. It's late. Otherwise, I could have tied the spirit beast up. In the evening, he found the spirit beast. By dawn, he tied it up. Master, again? I've been waiting for so long. This time, keep me tied for longer, the spirit beast said excitedly. Jiang Hao glanced at it, but didn't pay it much attention. Still, he sealed its power to prevent any accidents from happening. He needed to tell Xiao Li to be careful too. It was now mid-July. The beast was tied up for over 3 months, until early October. It cost 810 spirit stones. This should be the last time. That day, the spirit beast ate the spirit stones from morning till night without any protest. It patted its belly contentedly. I want more. This is not enough. Jiang Hao looked at it, but didn't pay much attention. A month went by, and the spirit beast became more familiar with the routine. Eating the spirit stones became easier. Xiaoli sat on its side. Beast, what does it taste like? Share a bit with me? Master, Xiaoli wants to snatch my food, the spirit beast shouted. Xiaoli was startled. Jiang Hao hurried over. No, I didn't. Xiaoli raised her empty hands to show him. I didn't do anything. The peaches are ripe, Jiang Hao said to her. You can have them. Yes, he'll have the peaches, Xiaoli immediately said. The next day, Xiaoli sat on his side and nibbled at a spirit stone. Jiang Hao looked at her and frowned. He flicked her lightly on the head with a bamboo stick. That isn't for eating. Oh, Xiaoli touched her head. A month later, in early October, Jiang Hao spent 65,611 spirit stones. He gave an extra piece to Xiaoli. That day, when he walked into the hallway, he saw a golden bubble. As he walked over to it, the bubble merged into his body. Golden Legend +1. Jiang Hao glanced at his panel. Golden Legend. 2 halves can be obtained. I wonder what he'll get this time. He wasn't in a hurry to get the ability. He wanted to send Xiao Li and the spirit beast away before he could get it. Xiao Li always came over for a visit because she always hung around the spirit beast. Just in case, he gave her the 9 nether. It was sealed with the might of a true dragon and the abyssal dragon pearl, so it remained as obedient as ever. Chapter 761. No one dares to ask for the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. Xiao Li sat at the table and tapped on the bead. Down. The 9 nether inside immediately crouched down. Bark. The 9 nether turned into a dog and started barking. Although there was no sound, Xiao Li was very happy. B0X. Calm, in just over a month, the 9 nether had begun to respond. Jiang Hao was surprised. When he tried to communicate with it, it didn't cooperate well. When did this start happening? A few days after Xiao Li got the bead, she felt bored because the 9 nether remained lifeless. At that time, she wanted Jiang Hao to return it because it was no fun. It might have been from that moment that the 9 nether had begun to understand human speech. Now that it listened to Xiao Li, Jiang Hao was pleased. Remember this at all times. The bead cannot be too far from you. It must always be kept close to you, Jiang Hao said. She nodded vigorously. After that, he looked at the spirit beast. If Shaoli didn't want to play with the nine nether, he would take it back and try to communicate with it. He said as much aloud to both Shao and the nine nether. Jiang Hao understood that the nine nether was willing to follow Shao Li and was reluctant to be near the heavenly fate misfortune pearl and the earth extreme silent pearl. After sending the two away, Jiang Hao returned to his room. He checked his surroundings and closed his eyes. He opened the golden legend. In an instant, the world around Jiang Hao changed. A circle began forming under his feet. Then it began to spread. It instigated the change of the sun and moon and the merging and separation of the earth. The circle kept expanding and encompassed the entire earth. Within the circle, there was something else. After some time, the circle began to materialize. Finally, it soared into the sky and turned into a black and white bracelet. It fell in front of Jiang Hao. The moment he lifted the bracelet, everything around him disappeared. The black and white bracelet lay quietly in his hand. He appraised it and immediately received the feedback. Yin-Yang bracelet. Yin imprisons without release, and Yang releases without entry. It has evolved in accordance with the changes of the world. The feedback was clear enough. It's a cage with no entry or exit. Jiang Hao was puzzled. What was the use of such a thing? He went to the courtyard and surrounded the heavenly fragrance Dao flower with the bracelet. The Yang function was activated. With a snap of his fingers, the power was blocked. After attaching the Yang function to himself, he found it easy to step out. But no one else could enter. The range was so broad that nothing could infiltrate from the sky or the ground. After using half of his power, he found that it could be moved slightly. It was like he was trying to squeeze in. Then, he activated the Yin function to enclose himself. Unlike before, he could enter without any obstacles but couldn't leave the circle. It could be used as a defensive barrier, but it's not a magical treasure. I don't know what it's actually used for. Jiang Hao thought for a moment, but couldn't understand where it could be used. So far, it wasn't useful for anything. If it was meant for a person, the heavenly cauldron was more useful. Moreover, it could be activated at any time. This magical treasure's effect wasn't that significant. He could only put away for now. If there was a chance, he would test the limits of this thing. It was unlikely that this treasure could be shattered. Magical treasures couldn't be destroyed so easily. After storing it away, Jiang Hao went to the spirit herb garden. He resumed his routine. He didn't understand why the sect hadn't contacted him or why the gathering hadn't been announced yet. There were no new changes from the law enforcement hall either. It seemed like he successfully remained on the suspect list. The sect had no details of what had happened in Devil's Den, so the impact of it was lesser on him. Another 2 months passed by, and it was already early December. The Divine Corpse sect sent a formal message informing them they would arrive in 7 days. 7 days later, Elder Baiji personally went to welcome them. There was no need to intimidate them this time. This time, the Divine Corpse sect was very cooperative and did not cause any commotion, especially when they found that the Mountain Sea Sword sect was also present. They couldn't understand why the Mountain Sea Sword sect was here. Moreover, both sides were very polite to each other. Jiang Hao was aware of this matter, but it didn't affect him. With the arrival of the Divine Corpse sect, the Heavenly Note sect had to decide who would enter the corpse realm. Jiang Hao didn't know how that would be decided, but it didn't have anything to do with him, so he remained indifferent. 7 days later, in mid-December, Jiang Hao finally received a message on the stone tablet. The gathering would be tonight at midnight. It had been almost half a year. This was unexpected. Jiang Hao thought for a moment. He needed to go through everything that happened in the previous gathering and prepare for this one. The location of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl also needed to be discussed. For the past few months, Hong Yuya hadn't visited, so he couldn't ask her either. He could only see what the people in the gathering felt. At midnight, Jiang Hao entered the gathering. Several others had also arrived. Senior Dan Yuan was seated at the top, as usual. After exchanging greetings, Jiang Hao and the other 4 sat cross-legged on the floor. "Any issues with your cultivation?" Senior Dan Yuan asked. No one answered. The matter regarding the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl went smoothly. Have you all received any feedback? The Xianyuan sword did indeed act, Gue said. But I don't know what happened after. I only know that everything went smoothly from my side. That's all, Zhang said and glanced at Jing. The title of the book he had mentioned had proved to be incredibly influential. She still didn't understand what it was all about. Lu remained silent. Xing said, I heard there was a purple light at the last moment. Everyone except Zhang looked at Jiang Hao. The only person who knew the details was Jing. Jiang Hao looked at everyone and said in a low voice, The Earth Extreme Silent Pearl is in my possession. The others fell silent. They felt shocked at the next question. Friend Jing, do you plan to keep the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl with you? Gue asked. Jiang Hao shook his head slightly. I haven't decided yet. Wouldn't it be better to hand over such a thing to the Bright Moon Sect or the Clear Sky School? Gue asked again. Well said. Jiang Hao always felt that Gue asked the right questions and played an indispensable role at the gathering. He also thought the same, but couldn't suggest it outright, because he always maintained a mysterious and powerful impression at the gathering. The group looked at Xing, smiled wryly. This situation is too extraordinary. It meant he couldn't intervene. Or perhaps he thought it was better to leave the thing in Jing's hands. It was widely known that since the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl hadn't erupted, the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl had gone dormant as well. Jiang Hao didn't speak up, and neither did the others. Senior Dan Yuan smiled, but did not say anything. Jiang Hao had no choice but to keep the pearl with him for now. Others had no way to suppress or seal the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl, so they definitely wouldn't offer to do so recklessly. Involving immortal sex in this matter would be even more complicated, especially since the pearl was temporarily sealed. Jiang Hao also didn't want to have contact with these people, which made the matter even more complex. Hence, no one brought it up. After discussing other matters for a while, the gathering moved on to the next phase. Jiang Hao received the mission reward from Senior Dan Yuan. It was the information on the corpse realm that he had asked for last time. Chapter 762. Speculations. He had asked for information about the corpse realm in the previous gathering. Although many things could be obtained from Zhuang Yuzhen, it was just one side of the story, after all. His information was limited to the north, while Senior Dan Yuan's information was much clearer. The thing with Zhuang Yuzhen was that nobody could persuade him to disclose information he knew. After a brief look, he discovered that some were speculations from various departments, while others described internal situations. B0X. Calm, but nothing seemed too striking, except for the end, which seemed to be about finding a person. He memorized all the text. Later, he recalled it from memory after leaving. This time, Senior Dan Yuan didn't mention any related tasks. The task was still about the Sage's page. No one had the intention to search for more during this time, so there was no need to ask further. After that was the trading phase. Zhang said, I have already found the rough location of the moon wheel and released the information. This task was from Xing nodded. The sea moon map will be sent to you, as per your request. Have any of you found any information about the book thief I mentioned earlier? Zhang asked. Others shook their heads. Jiang Hao lowered his head and hesitated. There was no need for anyone from the west to do anything at the moment. Thus, he didn't need to get involved. He would wait until he needed something. I have a small matter as well, said Gue as she looked at Jing. Is it very difficult to save Yin Zichen? Only Jing could answer this question. Everyone knew Jing had recently been to that place. Hao remained silent for a moment. He was caught by mistake. Gue was speechless, but she got her answer. It was possible to reclaim Yin Zichen after all. She then asked Jing what he needed in exchange. To this, Jiang Hao only asked about Yin Shang's recent situation. Gue informed him that Yin Shang had been living her life as usual without any changes. This surprised Jiang Hao a bit. He hadn't expected Feng Hua to remain so calm. However, he didn't mind. There was no need to provoke the other person. Although he was curious, he just nodded and didn't say anything. After that, no one had any tasks or questions. Everyone had been too caught up in the matter of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl recently. Upon learning that the pearl was with Jing, they breathed a sigh of relief. The end of all things disappeared. It is said that someone annihilated them, and it seems like everything they had was taken away, Gu Wei said. What things? Jiang Hao suddenly thought of the earth extreme heart-devouring pearl. The end of all things was using that to locate the earth extreme silent pearl. It's the work of the people from the 4 great immortal sections. Some of them will be wandering outside, Xing said. It is no wonder the southern region has been so quiet lately. Even the great Thousand God sect is not as active as it used to be, Gu Wei said. Jiang Hao listened quietly. He didn't know that the end of all things was annihilated in the south, nor that the great Thousand God sect had gone quiet. Someone is in the south, said Lu. The Shangwan family overseas seems to have come to the south to find someone. It is said that they want to find someone who can suppress the curse of their family. The people from the Shangwan family are in the south. Gu Wei was excited. Apparently, she was very interested in their curse. Do you think their curse could be suppressed or removed? Lu asked curiously. Gu Wei thought for a while. I remember that it is the 100 Nights curse. It recurs every 3 months and cannot be avoided. This curse is not an ordinary one. I don't think I can help with it. Gu Wei looked at Senior Dan Yuan. Senior, is the origin of this curse important? Everyone looked at him. Jiang Hao was also very curious. He knew who exactly was in the south. It was Shangwan Qingsu, who had betrayed Feng Hua. He had suppressed her curse before. So, there was a certain possibility that they were here for him. As for the 100 Nights curse, he had no clue. The 100 Nights is not an ordinary curse. It cannot be removed by conventional means because it is connected to an entity behind it. The source is difficult to eliminate, said Senior Dan Yuan with a smile. Jiang Hao and others were surprised. So, that was how it was. I heard that the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment realm is in the west, but no one has found her. Some speculate that the Bright Moon sect has obscured the trails of the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment cultivator so that powerful people can't find her, said Zhang. Jiang Hao and the others felt that the Bright Moon sect was so bold because of that. They had released the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment into the world while she was still growing. After that, they talked about some small matters. Lu specifically mentioned Qi Tian. It seemed he had already been welcomed by Heavenly King Taomu. It seems like he might rise up the ranks soon. Jiang Hao couldn't help but feel surprised. Qi Tian was actually very efficient. Perhaps he was not satisfied with his achievements. He also felt that Qi Tian might already be plotting against him. He didn't care about that. He just needed information. He needed it because he had to report to Hong Yuye. It wasn't yet time to venture out. He needed to wait until he became stronger. After the gathering ended, Jiang Hao immediately began to record the information about the corpse realm in his notebook. It took some time, but he finally wrote down everything. There hadn't been many things to discuss at the gathering this time. Everyone didn't seem particularly interested in the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl now that it was safe. The one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment had special protection, and it wasn't easy to find her location. People from the Shangwan family were coming for him. They probably were looking for smiling Sansheng. After that, there was nothing else to think about. The southern region had become much quieter, and many things had come to an end. Jiang Hao started reviewing the information he had received. The Corpse Realm was a special realm accidentally discovered by the founder of the Divine Corpse sect. They paid a huge price to find a way in. That same year, they perfected the 9 Extremes corpse dissecting method at the top of the Heavenly Steel Mountain and obtained many treasures from there. To gain a better understanding of the Corpse Realm, the Divine Corpse sect was founded. There was no record of the Corpse Realm in any of the classics. To find more information from the Mountain Sea Sword sect, they used the information of the Corpse Realm as an exchange. However, there was too little information. To learn more, they went to all the sects in the north, then later to the Clear Sky School and the Bright Moon sect in the east, but were unable to successfully access all the information. In the west, they paid a huge price and managed to access sufficient information. At that time, they found a clue, but no one knew what this clue was. People only knew that the Corpse Realm concealed something, yet there was not a single record about it. The founder later entered the Corpse Realm and never came out again. Jiang Hao looked at the books. These were probably some outside information about the situation. There wasn't any clear explanation. Instead, there were only speculations. Some said the corpse realm was a corner of the great world, while others claimed it was a passage connecting to other worlds. Furthermore, some speculated that the corpse realm was a vast secret realm protected by a huge formation. There was another assumption suggesting that the corpse realm was the cave of a mighty figure, but this mighty figure's whereabouts were unknown. Chapter 763. 17 years had passed. Jiang Hao frowned and looked at the information about the corpse realm. The assumptions were extraordinary, but speculations were, after all, just speculations. Moreover, it didn't affect him. Whether it was about other worlds or someone's cave, there were currently no powerful beings involved. So, he could enter while evading disasters. B0X. Calm, that was enough. The rest of the information was not very useful. He couldn't determine what would happen upon his entry. Then, he continued reading the information in the notebook. The corpse realm was separated from the outside world by a vast formation. Beneath this formation lay an area unknown to people. According to some individuals from the Divine Corpse sect, it might be an ocean, a never-ending and impassable sea. People in the north had the same view, but some in the west claimed to see glaciers. If he entered the corpse realm at the peak of return to Void Realm, he might even come across these things. However, there was a high chance he might fall into them and never come out. The most incomprehensible aspect of the corpse realm was the heavenly steel mountain. It possessed sovereign abilities, and countless powerful laws were hidden within. Most mysterious was the stone tablet at the very top. It was said that the imprint on the heavenly steel could be used to peer into the other side of the corpse realm. However, no one had attempted it. The founder of the Divine Corpse sect regretted not leaving an imprint on the heavenly steel. However, based on the records he left behind, they found a way to stay in the corpse realm. To better explore the secrets of the corpse realm, they ventured into the corpse sea. Regarding the corpse realm, perhaps the heavenly spirit tribe might know a lot, but their clan had no relevant records. If one truly wanted to understand the corpse realm, one could go to the coast of the corpse sea and seek the founder. Perhaps they might still be alive. Jiang Hao frowned. This was similar to what Zhuang Yuzhen had mentioned. With higher cultivation, it was easier to see things inside. However, this information talked about glaciers. Zhuang Yuzhen saw the sea. Yet, what concerned him most was the founder of the Divine Corpse sect. He was within the corpse realm. He might still be alive. The only question was, where was the coastline of the corpse sea? And was it related to the sea Zhuang Yuzhen saw there? Everything was uncertain. Jiang Hao put away the book. He couldn't determine anything and had to set aside for the time being. He had gone to check, but it seemed the blossoming of the corpse realm flowers wouldn't happen anytime soon. Unlike last time, there were no arrogant individuals from the Divine Corpse sect. Jiang Hao was content with this. However, after a few days, he heard that someone from the Heavenly Gate sect was going to visit the Heavenly Notes sect. The Heavenly Gate sect was a major sect in the southern region. It was even more prominent than the Black Heaven sect. It could be considered one of the top sects in the south. Perhaps the rise of the Grand Earth Emperor had ruffled them. As the corpse realm flowers were about to blossom, they were visiting. Their intentions were evident. Jiang Hao didn't know much about the sect, but he needed to be on his guard. The Heavenly Notes sect was exemplary in the south underscore, and the Heavenly Gate sect was even more prominent than that. Fortunately, they hadn't arrived yet. After that, Jiang Hao resumed his normal days. There was no need to think much about the gathering, and the sect also didn't require anything from him. Feng Hua and others had gone quiet. Everyone was either cultivating or getting stronger. There was nothing much to be concerned about. The only thing to worry about was perhaps Lin Ji and Chu Chuan. They had been out for a long time and hadn't returned to the sect. The coming days were indeed peaceful. Winter passed, spring arrived, and 5 months swiftly flew by. With time, some things changed along with it. Jiang Hao's bubbles were among those things. Every day, there would be white bubbles, and every 7 days, there would be blue bubbles. Occasionally, they appeared at irregular times. In these 5 months, nothing unexpected occurred, and more people from the sect began to return. Those who had previously gained opportunities began to venture out. Jiang Hao opened his eyes from his cultivation. He breathed a sigh of relief and then closed his eyes again. At noon, he opened his eyes once more. His cultivation felt steady. He took a look at his interface. Name, Jiang Hao. Age, 36. Cultivation level, peak of the return to the Void Realm. Cultivation method, Heavenly Sound 100 Revolutions, Hong Ming Heart Sutra. Divine ability, 9 revolutions death substitution. Unique, daily appraisal, clear and pure heart. Reappearance of hidden spirit, divine might. Revival of withered tree, heavenly cauldron. Indestructible Vajra, life force. 3/100 cannot be cultivated. Cultivation, 0/100 cannot be cultivated. Divine abilities, 1/3 cannot be obtained. 36 years old, Jiang Hao felt somewhat sentimental. When he was 19, he had first met Hong Yuya. From then on, his life hadn't been the same. His cultivation also began to skyrocket around that time. In just 17 years, he leaped from the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm to the peak of return to Void Realm. He might be able to step into the Immortal Ascension platform before he reached 40. If he could tend to spirit herbs in the same way, he could attempt to advance when he reached 38. In the afternoon, Jiang Hao restored the reappearance of hidden spirit and replenished 2 attack techniques in his wrist guards. That day, he also took the spirit beast to the spirit herb garden. Have Lin Ji and the others returned? Jiang Hao asked. They have. One came back looking completely beaten, while the other broke through to the late stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, said the spirit beast. Jiang Hao was surprised and asked for details. They said they met a righteous immortal on the way and ended up fighting. They were chased for over half a year and only managed to get back now. One could only take a beating, while the other became stronger the more they fought. The spirit beast shook its head and sighed. They ended up like that because they didn't invoke my name. Otherwise, my friends in the cultivation path would have helped, and they wouldn't have been chased. Jiang Hao glanced at the spirit beast, but didn't say anything else. Lin Ji seemed to run into such encounters frequently. If the spirit beast didn't accompany them, they would be chased longer. It was still all right. They could learn from their experience. This way, even when descending the mountain, they would understand what mattered more. How is Xiao Li's pet? Jiang Hao asked about the 9 nether. Behaving. It shows me respect, said the spirit beast as it munched on a carrot. Jiang Hao nodded. It seemed the 9 nether was still obedient. However, he still needed to pay close attention to avoid any problems. He had to check if the seal had weakened. If it had, it meant it had a lot on its mind. On the way, Jiang Hao received a message. It was from his master. Someone was going to visit the spirit herb garden, and Jiang Hao was asked to make the necessary preparations. Who wants to visit the spirit herb garden? Jiang Hao was puzzled. Has anyone visited the sect recently? He asked the spirit beast. The spirit beast swiveled its collar around its neck. Yes, someone from the Heavenly Gate sect. They are not my friends. Master, be careful. But you could try mentioning my name. Everyone knows about Lord Beat's reputation. Perhaps they've heard of it and might show you respect. People from the Heavenly Gate sect. Jiang Hao was surprised. He had been focused on the bubbles these past few days because he was on the verge of advancement. He hadn't expected people from the Heavenly Gate sect to arrive already. Although their arrival wasn't helpful, it should be all right as long as he did his part. After the visit, they probably wouldn't have any further interactions. Chapter 764. Why invite humiliation upon oneself? At the Spirit Herb Garden, Jiang Hao glanced at the people working inside. Most were ordinary folks, with a few outer disciples, but not even 1/10 of them. He had examined each of these individuals. There wasn't any problem with them. If there were any, it might be because someone outside was influencing them. Jiang Hao treated these people as well as he could. That was all he could do. However, even so, they might not necessarily live for long. B0X. Various things could happen within the Heavenly Note sect, and they could be exploited. It would ultimately lead to their tragedy. Every time, Jiang Hao reminded himself to become stronger as soon as possible. Only then could he control matters of his life and death. Is there any problem today? Jiang Hao asked Cheng Cho. The spirit herb has withered, Cheng Cho said. Jiang Hao frowned. Who does the spirit herb belong to? Flowing Waterfall. Do they know about it? They haven't found out yet. Jiang Hao hesitated for a moment and went to check. It was a valuable spirit herb. He had a feeling that there might be some problems with the herb. It was still uncertain whether it was due to planting methods or other problems. He decided to set it aside for now and not rush to inform anyone. He would deal with it after the Heavenly Gates sect's visit. However, representatives from Flowing Waterfall arrived. This time, it was a middle-stage Golden Core Realm cultivator. His cultivation was as strong as Jiang Hao at this level. His only request was to see the spirit herb and assess the situation. Senior brother, could you come back another day? Jiang Hao asked. It's not that I mind, but the person in charge has insisted that I inspect the herbs today, said the person helplessly. It seemed like they were instructed to follow orders at all costs. Jiang Hao glanced at the sky. He felt that time was running short. Senior brother, come with me, Jiang Hao said politely. He later asked for the person's name, which was Chu Wenwu. Soon, they arrived in front of the withered spirit herb. Chu Wenwu looked surprised. Junior brother, what's this about? This is your spirit herb. Due to some reason, the herb has withered, so we had to transplant it for now, said Jiang Hao. He slipped some spirit stones into Chu Wenwu's hands. Chu Wenwu had intended to get angry, but he only appeared helpless now. Junior brother, I was instructed to inspect and report back. I have my own difficulties. I hope you understand. He discreetly returned the spirit stones to Jiang Hao. If it's just a routine matter, you can return, senior brother. It won't be a problem tomorrow or the day after, said Jiang Hao. I do hope you understand, junior brother. I can see that you are busy, but I had to come and check. Please don't make things difficult for me. Chu Wenwu looked around as if he could sense something amiss. Jiang Hao nodded in understanding. Someone was targeting him, but there was something he didn't understand. How'd they do it? Did they tamper with the spirit herb last night? Or did they know that the Heavenly Gates sect would visit at this time? Making a fuss wouldn't benefit him in any way. The other person might not benefit either. It depended on who was less willing to escalate things. Then, how do you think we should handle things, senior brother? Chu Wenwu thought for a moment. Well, I was asked to ask for compensation if there was something wrong with the herbs. A compensation for not only the damaged herbs, but also for incurring a loss due to such a delay. What if we can't agree? Then, I'm supposed to go back and report to seniors. Jiang Hao nodded. He discreetly gave back the spirit stones and even added 2 healing talismans. Then, I must trouble you, senior brother, to make a trip again. We're only free in the afternoon. You don't need to overthink it. Just visit like you would normally. Chu Wenwu was surprised. After hesitating for a while, he accepted the talismans and spirit stones. This was quite a lot. Then I'll take my leave. After I return, he'll honestly report about the spirit herb. He implied that he wouldn't report anything bad. Jiang Hao thanked him and asked the spirit beast to accompany him. The spirit beast's presence somewhat helped. After that, Jiang Hao waited. Senior brother Bai Yi arrived with a group of disciples at the spirit herb garden at noon. There was a middle-aged man and 4 young cultivators. In total, there were 3 men and 1 woman. When Jiang Hao saw them, he could sense that they thought highly of themselves. The more he looked, the more pronounced their attitude became. In front of major sects, the Heavenly Note sect was indeed mediocre. They couldn't compare in terms of cultivator strength or the spirit herb garden. The Heavenly Note sect was a sect assembled in a short time. Such a sect could barely be considered huge. The Heavenly Note sect had improved over the years and managed to secure a top position. Even though their foundation was not very good and their overall strength was lacking, Elder Bai's leadership was remarkable. She had helped the sect progress significantly. But even so, in front of these major sects, the Heavenly Note sect was still considered a small, rustic sect. Jiang Hao bowed respectfully and silently stepped aside. As a mere inner sect disciple responsible for tending the spirit herb garden, He didn't have the qualification to show these guests around. That was senior brother by Yi's responsibility. As a true disciple and senior of the Cliff of Broken Hearts, he held significant status. Jianghao's role was to follow behind. Senior, please, our Cliff of Broken Hearts Spirit Her Garden is somewhat small and not comparable to your esteemed sect. If any areas need improvement, please feel free to tell us, Bai Yi said respectfully. You're too polite, the middle-aged man said. After that, they walked inside. After a while, they stopped in front of a particular spirit herb. It was the fragrant nether flower, which was a relatively common spirit herb. Why place the fragrant nether flower under the scorching sun? Asked the woman in the group. Wouldn't that ruin the fragrant nether flower? Fragrant nether flowers prefer shade. The scorching sun will affect it and might lead to the production of toxins. Your sect lacks even such basic knowledge. I heard that many people in the Heavenly Notes sect have some kind of mental issues. This might be the reason, said a man. The toxins from the fragrant nether flower can disturb the mind. I used to think that some people's unstable mental state was due to cultivation techniques, but now it seems it's due to a lack of common knowledge about spirit herbs. A few of them chuckled softly. Nonsense, said the middle-aged man. This spirit herb is being cultivated very well. Perhaps there's a reason for this, right, Bai? He looked at Bai Yi as though he was praising him while the others shamed his sect. Jianghao remained indifferent. Bai Yi calmly said, Senior, you're right. Indeed, there's a reason. I wonder what that is, said Yin Xuanyi. She was the only woman among them. It is inconvenient to disclose, said Bai Yi. It's only natural to learn from each other, said the middle-aged man, Nye Shanju. Then he looked at Jianghao. Young friend, you work here, right? So, you might know the reason behind it for sure. Bai Yi wanted to speak, but the man said again, Young friend, are you unwilling to share so we can all learn from each other? Bai Yi couldn't say anything. Jianghao knew the pressure was now on him. He agreed with the woman. The fragrant nether flower was supposed to be grown in the shade. However, Miao Tinglian had wanted to move it here, so he couldn't say anything. She even explained the reasons for it that he could have never even thought of. Young friend, be bold and speak up, Nye Shanju said with a smile. The other four looked on as if watching a play. Jianghao sighed. Why bother? There is no need to provoke cultivators who were not from the same place. Chapter 765. Using another's blade to kill Jianghao had thought that the Heavenly Gate sect was merely displaying their superiority. After all, the Heavenly Notes sect didn't possess any profound attainments that could be shown off, and the Spirit Her Garden was rather at an ordinary level. Yet, members of the Heavenly Gate sect still came to visit and learn. Naturally, it was to showcase their own superiority. However, Jianghao didn't expect them to be so arrogant. Fortunately, he didn't have to answer. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome. B0X. Come, friend. Haven't you figured out yet? Yin Xuanyi asked. Jianghao lowered his head respectfully. The reason isn't very complicated. The fragrant nether flower prefers shade, mainly because its roots need coolness. Otherwise, it would absorb moisture from its leaves and branches and cause toxins to cover the whole plant. However, the ice crystal grass surrounds a fragrant nether flower, so it keeps the spirit field cold, and they thrive on toxins. So, the fragrant nether flower gets its coolness from the ice crystal grass, and the grass gets nourishment from the flower. That is the reason for planting them this way. Jianghao's response was clear and logical. It left them stunned. Even Bai Yi was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. Junior brother Jiang, don't show off. How could these esteemed seniors not be aware of such small matters? Do you think the disciples from their sect are a bunch of fools? I'm sure the question was just meant as a test for you. Don't get too comfortable. Jianghao nodded in agreement and dared not say more. Senior brother Bai was indeed straightforward. He didn't want to stir up any trouble. But even so, these people already had a grudge against him. Sure enough, the 5 people looked displeased. They forced out a smile and made an excuse to leave. Jianghao sighed inwardly. He could only take things one step at a time. As Jianghao arrived at the Spirit Herb Garden the next day, he overheard them discussing something. They said the Heavenly Gate sect was furious. Furious? Jiang Hao wondered if something had happened last night. Didn't they consider the presence of the Divine Corpse sect and the Mountain Sea Sword sect here? Even if they disregarded the Divine Corpse sect, the Mountain Sea Sword sect should still make them reconsider. Upon inquiry, he heard that several more deaths had occurred this time, including individuals with significant status. The issue seemed to have escalated. However, it had nothing to do with him this time. He hadn't done anything. On the other side, in the area where the people from the Heavenly Gate sect were staying, the middle-aged man was furious. He argued with the people from the Heavenly Note sect. After a long time, the people from the Heavenly Note sect eventually withdrew. They seemed to have placated the guests somewhat. At that point, the middle-aged man sat down in the room. He looked furious as well as a bit sad. He also looked somewhat impatient. A woman walked into the room. "The people from the Heavenly Note sect have left?" the middle-aged man asked. "Yeah, they're gone." The woman nodded. The middle-aged man's anger and sadness seemed to dissipate at that. His face showed annoyance. "How are they alive? Wasn't it rumored that provoking the Heavenly Note sect was dangerous? Wasn't the Cliff of Broken Hearts supposed to be a risky place? Those 5 people humiliated them, yet they are still alive and well. The Heavenly Note sect has an undeserved reputation. It's said that a few managed to survive by luck. Besides, the 5 people were defeated in the Cliff of Broken Hearts by words alone. No one was angry in the end. Maybe that is why they didn't retaliate," said the woman. "Useless. They were defeated by words alone in a sect like the Heavenly Note sect that lacks any foundation. They can't even tend the spirit herb garden well." The middle-aged man shook his head and sighed. The woman hesitated for a moment and asked, "Is that the right thing to do? What's not right about it?" The old man sneered. "These people are just scum. They're not worthy of attention. Why keep them around? Are we tarnishing our sect's reputation? We might as well make the most of it and gain some benefits for our sect. Besides, we're just making them experience the real world of cultivation. If their skills are lacking, who can they blame? In the worst-case scenario, those killed might belong to the Heavenly Note sect. We'll just have to take responsibility for that. Or we can just blame the Great Thousand God sect." But the woman felt uneasy. "No buts," said the middle-aged man. "You know what kind of people they are. There are some we can't touch, but once they're here, no one cares about their status. A demonic sect is a demonic sect. They chose to provoke other people. If they get killed for that, what can the sect say? Will they rage or kill their way to the Heavenly Note sect? Let them come and kill. Those who have held power for too long are already corrupt. Since that's the case, let's use this newly risen sword to ruthlessly slay the corruption within the sect. What's wrong with that? A group of people we can't educate. Let the Heavenly Note sect educate them. Let's see who survives." The woman was silent for a long time. "What about the remaining people? Wait a little longer. If they don't die, just kill them and blame it on the Heavenly Note sect. We brought them along, but I have no intention of taking them back," said the middle-aged man indifferently. "All right." The woman nodded. "They deserve to be killed." Jiang Hao noticed that Lu Xingqian looked excited to visit him. It seemed like he found something amusing yet again. With some members of the sect dead, it was a busy time for the law enforcement hall. If he was here so early, there was probably some progress in the investigation. His excitement suggested that the matter was quite interesting. This time, Jiang Hao wasn't worried because it had nothing to do with him. He was eager for Lu Xingqian to tell him of the new developments. "Junior brother Jiang, have you heard?" Lu Xingqian asked. "Yeah, I heard that many people from the Heavenly Gate sect died." Jiang Hao nodded. "Do you know who did it?" Lu Xingqian asked again. Jiang Hao thought for a moment before. Wasn't it the Great Thousand God sect? That's what the law enforcement hall concluded. The Great Thousand God sect has been reckless lately. "It must be their doing," said Lu Xingqian. Jiang Hao was silent. As far as he knew, the people from the Great Thousand God sect had gone quiet lately. How could they be reckless so suddenly? If the Heavenly Note sect said so, then it must be true. But did the people from the Heavenly Gate sect believe it? Jiang Hao asked this, and Lu Xingqian's answer surprised him. "They do, but our sect is still to be blamed. In the end, We can only offer some spots in the corpse realm to appease the Heavenly Gate sect, Lu Xingchen said. However, during our investigation, we found several suspicious individuals. Junior brother, do you know who they might be? Jiang Hao shook his head, but he felt it must be some seniors from the Heavenly Notes sect. This kind of thing wasn't new in the sect. First, we found some suspicious individuals from various branches, but they all had alibis, so we didn't pay much attention to them. However, this only accounted for part of it. Another part led us to the Divine Corpse sect. After the investigation, we found they had picked up a small portion of stored treasures. It's our sect's responsibility to retrieve it for investigation, Lu Xingchen said with a smile. The most interesting part is that the Heavenly Gate sect also had suspicious individuals in their midst. It's truly unexpected. Several people who visited you are all alive and well, Lu Xingchen said as he stared carefully at Jiang Hao. What do you think of that, junior brother Jiang? Jiang Hao chuckled. Nothing. Isn't that normal? True. Lu Xingchen shrugged it off. By the way, let me tell you something. The list of individuals allowed to enter the corpse realm has been revealed, and your name is also on it. Chapter 766. Another person in the lawless tower, he was going to the corpse realm. The news took Jiang Hao by surprise. The opening of the corpse realm, this time, had nothing to do with him. He had already entered last time, so he didn't need to enter again. Opportunities should be given to others who didn't have it before, and perhaps a truly exceptional individual might emerge. Hence, it was uncommon to allow the same person to enter a secret realm twice. B0X. After all, the effect of the second time was significantly worse than the first. It was better to give this opportunity to someone else. Why am I selected to go? Jiang Hao asked. He didn't expect it. Although he had secretly desired to enter it again, he didn't know if his cultivation realm might pose problems. The peak of the return to Void Realm was the limit to enter the corpse realm. Using simple means to conceal himself might not work. Shaman and Gue had both tried it. Suppressing one's cultivation realm wasn't a problem, but for Jiang Hao, it was more about concealment than suppression. It made things more complicated. He couldn't ask for details and could only try to hide while trying to suppress his cultivation. In theory, hiding his cultivation didn't mean he could escape the notice of the corpse realm. Otherwise, the Heavenly Steel Mountain wouldn't have called for him. Entering without preparation might mean being devoured by the ocean. The reason is simple. Junior brother Jiang, your recent achievements have been remarkable. Such places prioritize disciples with high achievements, regardless of who they are. If their achievements are high, they get priority, said Lu Xingchen. Jiang Hao fell silent for a moment. This was indeed unexpected. However, with adequate preparation, there should be no problems. How were the slots distributed this time? Jiang Hao asked. There were a total of 48 slots. Our sect selected 16 people. The Mountain Sea Sword sect and the Divine Corpse sect selected 10 each. The Heavenly Gate sect selected 12. The Heavenly Gate sect has so many. Jiang Hao was surprised. The Heavenly Gate sect shouldn't have that many people, at least not more than the Mountain Sea Sword sect. It was originally 8, but they were given an additional 4 slots. Lu Xingchen chuckled. Jiang Hao understood. They had suffered significant losses, and they needed to be placated. It made sense. After talking for a while, Lu Xingchen left. Jiang Hao didn't pay much attention to that and began to plan for the corpse realm. However, there was another matter he was worried about. The issue with flowing waterfall spirit herbs still needed solving. He had appraised the spirit herbs and found issues with them. Someone had intentionally tempered with them. The person behind it was Chiu Luo. It was a name Jiang Hao had encountered before. He had seen the name before in the law enforcement hall's underground city. But Jiang Hao still had no clue who this person actually was. This person wasn't simple at all. He had never provoked the flowing waterfall branch in his life. So why were they after him? This was what confused him. He found no reason for them to do so. It was evident that the other party was exceptionally well informed. But for what purpose? After waiting for a while, Jiang Hao saw Chu Wenwu approach. He was here this time to negotiate the compensation. Jiang Hao lowered his head. The spirit herbs were valuable, but he had no evidence to prove that the issue wasn't due to his method. In this negotiation, he had no advantage. At that moment, Bai Yi arrived too. "Whose spirit herbs are they?" he asked. "It belongs to senior brother Jia Chun," Chu Wenwu respectfully said. "Let him come and discuss this matter with me in person," Bai Yi said. That day, not a single person above the Foundation establishment realm from Flowing Waterfall visited the garden again. The others just gave up on compensation and reclaimed the withered spirit herbs. Jiang Hao was surprised. The other person didn't demand anything further. He thanked senior brother Bai Yi for this. Bai Yi just nodded without saying much. Senior brother Chu was also helpless. On the path of cultivation, no one had it easy. Everyone treaded on thin ice and advanced through difficulties. In the evening, Jiang Hao left the market. He had been selling talismans and hadn't met senior sister Lung Tian and senior brother Duan Guan. He had amassed a little over 10,000 spirit stones. With fewer sect members lately, even earning this much was difficult. He needed to continue accumulating spirit stones. Hong Ye hadn't visited yet. He needed to prepare things before entering the corpse realm. Otherwise, it would be challenging to buy things inside the corpse realm. He had decided what to do in the corpse realm this time. He intended to use the corpse realm to reach the immortal ascension platform. This way, he would also be considered a strong individual. Although he was not strong enough, he had surpassed many. The immortal ascension platform from the Return of Void would be a considerable leap. If there was enough time after that, he would try to find the founder of the Divine Corpse sect. Since he was going to the corpse realm, he had to visit the Lawless Tower. It had been a long time since he last visited. He wondered how things were there. He wanted to see what the situation was with Heavenly King Hai Luo. On the other side, Bai Zhu led Xiao Yi along the mountain path and headed toward the direction of the Lawless Tower. The one leading the way was Insha. Upon hearing that an important client had arrived, she didn't dare neglect them. "Senior, can anyone be redeemed from the Lawless Tower?" Bai Zhu asked innocently. "In theory, yes," Insha said without going into much detail. "If they refuse to leave, will you release them anyway?" Bai Zhu asked. Insha chuckled. "They will certainly want to leave." Xiao Yi followed behind. She felt strange. What kind of place could imprison people and trade them like goods? A demonic sect was indeed somewhat surprising. However, she remembered that the person they were after was strong. How had they ended up in such a situation? After a while, the group arrived in front of the Lawless Tower. Bai Zhu was excited. It was her first time entering the Lawless Tower. Almost everyone they wanted to find during the gathering had been in there. There were many rumors about this place, but few had actually seen it. Those who entered rarely came out unscathed. Now that she had the opportunity, she wanted to use it fully. Soon, Insha handed them jade pendants to protect them from the Lawless Tower, and the group ventured inside. However, shortly after entering, they saw a person slowly climbing up the stairs. Junior brother Jiang. Insha was quite surprised. "It's been a while since you visited." Jiang Hao turned around and was surprised to see Bai Zhu. Still, he greeted her. "I've been in cultivation." Bai Zhu felt apprehensive looking at the person before her. This person carried the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. "Friend Jiang, it's been a while. Do you still remember me?" she asked with a smile. Jiang Hao nodded but didn't say much. If he had known that she would be here, he wouldn't have left the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Now, he could only quietly follow along. Although Insha was surprised, she didn't ask further. The four of them arrived at the 5th floor together. Jiang Hao noticed that there were more people this time. There was Zhuang Yuzhen, Hai Luo, Nangongyu, Wu Yang, and Yin Zichen as usual. Then, there was a new addition, Mi Lingwei. Jiang Hao hadn't noticed that she was here. Apparently, many things had happened unnoticed. Chapter 767 Heavenly King Hai Luo's Realization. The arrival of Mi Lingyue surprised Jiang Hao. He was curious about how she came to be here. Logically, she wouldn't have been captured. However, if she had come here voluntarily, it would be strange. The Heavenly Note sect wouldn't object as long as they could earn some spirit stones. Everyone knew about the price of entry here. Regression of cultivation. Falling back to the primordial spirit realm was inevitable. There were no cultivators beyond the primordial spirit realm on the 5th floor. B0XO. Comma price for being here was self-evident. It would impact one's cultivation greatly unless one were in the primordial spirit realm to begin with. However, normal primordial spirit realm cultivators couldn't maintain their cultivation on the 5th floor. Most of these people could maintain it by controlling their strength and resisting the influence of the lawless tower. Among them, Zhuang Yuzhen was exceptional. He managed to stay stable solely through his own means. Heavenly King Hai Luo knew how to take advantage of a situation, so the suppression of his cultivation wasn't very severe. Bai Zhu felt astonished looking at the 6 people. There were quite a few people on this floor. If it had been earlier, she would have certainly explored thoroughly. But now that Jiang Hao was here, it seemed unlikely. If she had known that the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl would be here where she was, she definitely wouldn't have visited. Although it made no difference whether the person was here or not when it erupted, it was still a consolation when one couldn't see the pearl in front of them. She felt strange. If this person somehow was emotionally unstable, they would all die. But why would the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl be given to this person for safekeeping? It was perplexing. However, it wasn't worth investigating further. Provoking this person wouldn't be good for anyone present. This person might not be able to break the seal anyway. But what if he could? Bai Zhu sighed. It was best to finish what they came for and leave quietly. It wasn't good to stay here for long. She looked at the 6 people and tried to guess which one was Yin Zichen. The sudden arrival of so many people piqued the curiosity of the 6 captives. There hadn't been many visiting the tower the entire year. Today, so many had come at once. Jiang Hao remained in the back and didn't do anything much. He knew that these 2 people had come to release someone, and it seemed Yin Zichen had voluntarily given up his sword heart. Otherwise, the lawless tower wouldn't release anyone. Otherwise, they would have to face the Mountain Sea Sword sect. That definitely wouldn't provoke them. Yin Zichen, Yin Sha looked toward the 5th prison cell. She had a feeling that he was about to be released. Indeed, she was right. He returned the sword heart, so he still had a chance to escape in the future. Bai Zhu and Qiao Yi both looked at him. Bai Zhu couldn't recognize the person. She turned to Qiao Yi. "Annie Qiao, take a look. Is this the person?" "Probably," Qiao Yi said with some difficulty. "I was still young back then, so I don't remember him very clearly." Bai Zhu looked helpless. She then approached the cell with Qiao Yi. "Senior, I have a question for you. If your answer satisfies me, they'll release you from here. If not, I want," Bai Zhu said. "Go on." Yin Zichen nodded. He felt that the young girl in front of him was quite unusual. "Do you recognize this person?" Bai Zhu pushed Qiao Yi forward. The latter felt a bit embarrassed. Yin Zichen looked at her for a long time before shaking his head. "I'm sorry. I don't recognize you." Qiao Yi was filled with anticipation in the beginning, but now she looked deflated. "I worked at the library of the Heavenly Spirit Tribe back then," Qiao Yi said. "The library? Outside the Heavenly Spirit Tribe?" Yin Zichen frowned. "The little girl who wanted to leave? That's me." Qiao Yi immediately nodded. "Sorry, I still don't remember your name." Yin Zichen shook his head. "It's all right. I understand," Qiao Yi said. "All right, come with us," Bai Zhu said. Since they hadn't made a mistake, everything was all right. "You're not considering staying here longer?" Mi Linghua asked. Yin Zichen was speechless. What kind of situation would make someone consider staying in a place like this? Jiang Hao stood at the side and didn't pay much attention to these people. If Yin Zichen left, it was good. There were too many people here. At some point, the lawless tower had begun housing so many people. Initially, there was only Zhuang Yuzhen. Then, the Heavenly King arrived. The number of people should have decreased, but Heavenly King Hai Luo broke everyone's expectations by voluntarily ending up in the tower once more. Mi Linghua had also come to stay here voluntarily. She probably wanted to escape the control of the Great Thousand God sect. It was uncertain if she could detect the core of the mental control technique in this place. "Come with me," Yin Sha said as she escorted Yin Zichen, Qiao Yi, and Bai Zhu out. Jiang Hao watched them leave the 5th floor. Yin Zichen hadn't looked at him at all when all this happened. He probably didn't want to attract any unnecessary attention. Once they left, Jiang Hao finally breathed a sigh of relief. Baizhu was too dangerous. Chapter 768. Gift from Feng Hua. Jiang Hao didn't understand Heavenly King Hai Luo's emotions. He also couldn't guess what kind of changes these emotions could bring about. But he knew that having too many feelings would entangle a person. That was not what he hoped for. He tried to avoid people as much as possible and not get involved in too many relationships. B0XO. Karma was both for his defense and to protect others. He could provoke many people if he lived like that. The closer the relationship, the easier it was to attract attention. At that time, his limit would be tested. He didn't want such a thing to happen. No matter what he chose, it wouldn't be a good thing. Perhaps Heavenly King Hai Luo would benefit from his emotions, but how many people in this world were lucky enough to have that? When Jiang Hao left the Lawless Tower, he saw senior sister Insha on the way. He asked her about Mi Lingwe. Her? She said she came for refuge. She also promised that she would help us with some forging tasks and teach some disciples. If they truly succeed in learning, then there's a chance the sect will reopen the forging branch. Elder Baizhi would naturally agree to such a good thing. That was what Jiang Hao heard. Unexpectedly, Mi Lingwe didn't spend a single penny. However, her value far exceeded that of spirit stones. No one would refuse such a person. Both sides got what they needed. It was Hai Ming. This surprised Jiang Hao a bit. He hadn't visited for a long time. Previously, because of the matter with the fish people, he had come to find him to unearth some clues. Later, when the ancestral dragon heart had appeared, he hadn't visited. Why was he here suddenly? Senior Hai Ming. Jiang Hao bowed in greeting. Been such a long time. Hai Ming smiled. I assume you've been engaged in far more important matters of the sect, Senior, said Jiang Hao. Shall we go inside and talk? Hai Ming gestured toward Jiang Hao's courtyard. Jiang Hao was somewhat concerned, but he nodded. Please do come in. If Hai Ming was himself, there would be no problem. But Jiang Hao knew that he was one of the avatars of Feng Hua. Whatever Hai Ming saw, Feng Hua would get wind of it. The sudden visit might be because they discovered something. Jiang Hao couldn't be certain what it was, but it probably wasn't related to smiling Sansheng. Most likely, it was about the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. Feng Hua was not easy to deal with. He had known that from the beginning. So after giving her some gifts, he didn't bother with her. Provoking someone frequently always brought trouble. Hai Ming looked around the courtyard and exclaimed, "This place is really nice. I was lucky to find a good location. That's all," said Jiang Hao modestly. Unfortunately, I'm not from the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Otherwise, I'd definitely build a house next to yours. Hai Ming chuckled. At this, Jiang Hao frowned. What did he mean? Their interaction had always been friendly and normal before. But today, it seemed as though there was an underlying threat in his words. It didn't sound like something a senior would say. How could he bring up building a house next to someone so casually? It would obviously arouse suspicion. The previous Hai Ming definitely wasn't like this. Jiang Hao looked at the person before, but didn't sense anything unusual. He could only smile. If that were the case, I would truly be honored to have you as a neighbor. Hai Ming sat down. Do you have any tea? Yes. Jiang Hao nodded and brewed some ordinary tea leaves. I heard you frequently encounter opportunities whenever you go out. Hai Ming sipped his tea. Jiang Hao lowered his head and said, Occasionally, I do encounter some opportunities. Hai Ming smiled meaningfully and said, Could someone be secretly helping you? Jiang Hao looked at him and said, Senior, you must be joking. Who would ever help me? Ha! Hai Ming laughed. I'm just kidding. By the way, do you want a gift from me? Jiang Hao felt like he had already had this conversation before, as smiling Sansheng. Senior, you want to give me a gift? He asked in polite puzzlement. If he had known Hai Ming would come for a visit, he would have saved the appraisal ability instead of using it at the Lawless Tower. Yes. Do you want to guess what it is? Hai Ming smiled. Jiang Hao lowered his head. Is it something you need me to do, Senior? Not really. I just want to see your surprise when you receive the gift. Hai Ming smiled. Jiang Hao looked at him and sensed that he was up to no good. "Thank you very much, Senior, but I still hope you would let me do something in return for you. Let me give you the gift first." Hai Ming took out a letter and handed it to Jiang Hao. "Open and take a look." Jiang Hao slowly opened the envelope and read the words written there. "Please say hello to smiling San Sheng for me." Jiang Hao's face didn't change, but a storm surged in his heart. What did this mean? Did Hai Ming think he had smiling San Sheng backing him, or did he believe he was smiling San Sheng? Jiang Hao panicked. He didn't know how Feng Hua had noticed it and linked smiling San Sheng to him. "Do you like the gift?" Hai Ming asked. Jiang Hao shook his head but didn't speak. Feng Hua might just be speculating. However, he had already attracted her attention, which was somewhat unexpected. "I heard you have a younger sister." Hai Ming placed his teacup down. "Seems like she loves food. I gave her a box of pastries. She smiled and thanked me. She's truly adorable, don't you think?" "What do you mean, Senior?" Jiang Hao asked. "Nothing. I just wanted to give something to someone, but they refused. So I brought you something instead." Hai Ming chuckled and stood up. "I won't stay long. He'll come again for a discussion with you, junior brother." Jiang Hao watched him walk away. As he left the courtyard, Hai Ming turned back. "Young friend, you should take care of your sister, or one day she might disappear. Then, it'll be your fault for not looking after her properly." After that, Hai Ming rode his sword and left. Jiang Hao watched him leave without saying a word. He was silent as he watched Hai Ming speed away. Then, he looked around the courtyard. He looked at the peach tree and sighed heavily. Jiang Hao had intended to set aside the matter with Feng Hua for a while, but he hadn't expected the other party to come knocking on his door with ill intentions. Did she really find it out, or was she only guessing? It was quite challenging to find out anything about smiling San Sheng unless someone at the gathering had learned about it and leaked the information. Only then would it be possible for someone to come looking for him. However, everyone at the gathering knew about the heavenly fate misfortune pearl on him, so no one could have revealed such important information. Once the pearl erupted, no one could escape. Therefore, it wouldn't have been anyone from the gathering. Jiang Hao sighed. He was unable to find a reason. The situation had somewhat gotten out of control, and Feng Hua's main body couldn't be found yet. She could take action against him at any time while hiding in the shadows. In an instant, she returned to the darkness while Jiang Hao remained exposed to the light. Chapter 769. The Battle of the Three Kingdoms. The next day, Jiang Hao left the Spirit Herb Garden and headed to the cafeteria. Most people there were at or below the Foundation establishment realm, and it was where ordinary individuals went to eat. Of course, their dining areas wouldn't be placed together. It was a risky affair for ordinary non-cultivators to mingle there. Those at the lifeblood refinement realm level and above seldom ate there. They rarely visited the cafeteria, except for Shaoli, B0XO. She had visited the cafeteria more frequently than anyone else in the past years. Unlike others, she had to pay spirit stones for her meals. Presently, it was 50 spirit stones per month. Most of the time, it was Jiang Hao who paid for her. Shaoli had spirit stones of her own, but she spent them on other snacks, which meant she was often broke. As soon as Jiang Hao entered the cafeteria, he saw Shaoli sitting in her usual spot. She was bouncing on her toes and waiting for her food to arrive. Her face was full of anticipation and joy. "Senior brother Jiang." She spotted Jiang Hao and waved to him. "Are you planning to treat me to a meal?" Jiang Hao walked over and sat down. The spirit beast hopped onto the table and expected food to be served. Shaoli's expectant face became conflicted. Finally, she nodded hesitantly. Jiang Hao looked at her and gestured for her to bring out the 9 nether. The 9 nether, which was in a fairly joyful state, instantly slumped as if in despair when it reached Jiang Hao's hands. It seemed desolate. Jiang Hao observed that even in this state, it couldn't influence the outside world. Even if he wanted it to help Shaoli, it was powerless to do so unless released from its seal. Releasing it would be easy, but sealing it would be much more difficult. He couldn't guard Shaoli against Feng Hua's threat, but he knew that Xiaoli herself was strong. With the dragon pearl on her, it would require formidable cultivation to harm her. He just wasn't sure what cultivation realm could resist the dragon pearl's power. "Let me hold on to this for now," Jiang Hao said. If someone targeted Xiaoli, having the 9 nether on her would pose a danger. If it was unsealed, it would worsen the situation. A toothless tiger could still strike and kill. Oh, Xiaoli didn't seem to mind. Her food had arrived. It was a huge roast. Before eating, she cut a small piece for Jiang Hao. "Senior brother, you first," she said. Jiang Hao took it and started eating. Then, he watched Xiaoli eat her food heartily. For a moment, he recalled the past. Xiaoli had come to the Heavenly Notes sect solely for a meal back then. After arriving in the sect, she showed no interest in cultivating but toiled tirelessly every day for food. She was often chased by people to make her pay attention to her studies. At that time, she used to hide in the woods. Many years had passed without much change in her way of life. She didn't like cultivating. She only loved food. Perhaps one day, while eating, she would suddenly realize who she really was. Jiang Hao finished his food. He watched Xiaoli finish her meal too. Finally, Xiaoli took a few pieces of dessert and put them away secretly. When Jiang Hao asked her why she didn't eat them, Xiaoli told him that she'd eat them later at home so that others would know that she wasn't such a glutton. "My mother taught me that it's not easy to be a joke to others," Xiaoli said. Jiang Hao didn't ask anything further. He got up and left. The spirit beast didn't follow but stayed beside Xiaoli. They might need to find Chu Chuan and the others. Back at his residence, Jiang Hao didn't dwell on it much. Rushing was useless in resolving Feng Hua's threat. He still had time. The best way was to get stronger quickly and then try and find the other party. After that, he could persuade her to let go of her grudge against him. 1 month later, in early June, the list of people selected for the Corpse Realm was released. Apart from Jiang Hao, there was one more person from the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised to see Xiao Li's name there. Is Master trying to push Xiao Li to do better? Xiao Li's talent was evident to everyone, and they all knew that she'd progress rapidly if she put in a little effort. But she just refused to take cultivation seriously. Whenever the Cliff Master tried to teach her, she would fall asleep. That was also why nobody paid too much attention to Xiao Li. To them, someone unwilling to cultivate was just a waste of talent. Such a person wasn't worth any attention. They wouldn't affect others. Typically, those who enter the Corpse Realm were individuals on the verge of a breakthrough. So, assigning a slot to Xiao Li might be exactly something that she needed. Once inside, if one didn't become stronger by cultivation, they would be in immense danger. I wonder if Feng Hua can reach into the Corpse Realm. Jiang Hao didn't think much about it. It was uncertain whether Xiao Li could enter. Anybody who entered the realm had to learn about formations. Could Xiao Li learn them? It turned out that she could. The next day, Jiang Hao was summoned by his master and given a task. He was supposed to teach Xiao Li about formations. Jiang Hao nodded. After that, he began teaching Xiao Li. Initially, Xiao Li refused to learn. Her mind was blank. She just wanted to sleep. Jiang Hao withheld her meals. He told her she could only eat after she finished learning the formations. "Senior brother Jiang, I'm hungry," Xiao Li said as she held her grumbling stomach. She sat under the immortal peach tree and looked forlorn. Jiang Hao looked at her calmly. "You can eat after we're done with this." Xiao Li stared at Jiang Hao strangely. She felt a sense of déjà vu. There was a woman's figure behind her senior brother. The woman looked at her as if saying, "You can't eat until you finish learning. No food for you if you don't learn this." Suddenly, it felt as if the woman was about to raise her hand and hit her. The fearless Xiao Li shuddered. Then, she picked up the book and said earnestly, "Senior brother Jiang, you'll learn this fast." Jiang Hao was speechless. 3 days later, Xiao Li completed her training. Her talent in formations was unusually high. Jiang Hao was somewhat envious for a moment, as he didn't possess such talent. Many people in this world had unique talents. The feeling of being inferior often lingered in him. Jiang Hao realized that except for some talent in runic arts, his talents in other areas were quite average. In September, Jiang Hao had saved up 14,000 spirit stones. He thought he could save up to 20,000, but that wasn't very likely now. The corpse realm flower was about to bloom. In 7 days, he would enter the corpse realm. This time was different from the last. The Heavenly Notes sect had experience, so everything went smoothly. The Heavenly Gate sect's members didn't need instructions, either. They already knew what to do. 7 days later, Jiang Hao, Xiao Li, Zhuge Zheng, and Yin Xuanyi arrived together at the front of the corpse realm flower. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised. They all knew each other. Moreover, Zhuge Zheng was entering for the second time. The spirit beast wasn't here. It was tending to the spirit herbs and the flower in Jiang Hao's courtyard. However, just before they entered, Jiang Hao encountered Feng Hua again. Haiming told him that his second gift was in the corpse realm and hoped he liked it. Jiang Hao nodded politely and expressed his thanks. It caught him off guard. He didn't expect Feng Hua's influence to extend into the corpse realm. He didn't know from where Feng Hua had entered the corpse realm. Was it from the northern region, the southern region, or the western region? In the south, there was only the Heavenly Notes sect. If it was here, the only targets would be the Heavenly Gate sect and Divine Corpse sect. Provoking the Heavenly Notes sect directly was dangerous, even more so when the Mountain Sea Sword sect was involved. However, it was uncertain what this gift would entail. Chapter 770. Arriving at Heavenly Steel Mountain right away, Haiming, one of the avatars of the great Thousand God sect's Feng Hua. He is at the early stage of the return to Void Realm. He infiltrated the Heavenly Notes sect to investigate the reason for Dan King's death. After being provoked by Smiling Sansheng, he abandoned his investigation and started tracing the whereabouts of Smiling Sansheng. However, he found nothing. After learning about your rapid progress in cultivation, he became suspicious of you. When he learned that the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower was with you, he became even more wary. However, there is no evidence to show your connection with Smiling Sansheng. So, he used a letter to deceive you. He thinks that Smiling Sansheng values you, and he intends to use that against you. He wants Smiling Sansheng to feel pain. Jiang Hao stood in front of the human yuan formation and sighed. Haiming didn't have any evidence. He was simply acting on some speculations. He wondered if he had given away anything from his reaction at that time. B0XO. Calm regardless, Haiming was convinced that Jiang Hao was connected to Smiling Sansheng. Once the seed of suspicion was planted, Feng Hua would undoubtedly take him as a target for revenge. Besides, there were no other suspicious individuals. Jiang Hao sighed warily. He hadn't expected that people would act on mere speculation. Feng Hua was angry. For an angry person, logic and evidence didn't matter. As soon as he met Haiming, he activated his daily appraisal. Unfortunately, the information he received wasn't very detailed. Maybe Feng Hua was afraid of being discovered by Jiang Hao and was deliberately withholding information from Haiming. Haiming knew a little about the plan, but not so much of its execution. It was similar to when he had asked Gui to deliver a letter. At that time, Gui didn't know what she was being used for. The avatars of the great Thousand God sect's members are indeed formidable. Jiang Hao couldn't help but admire them. The fastest way of advancement was probably the Divine Corpse sect's corpse dissolution technique. The other techniques were slightly inferior. The freeform technique and the myriad body technique were different. Senior Brother Jiang, I'm going to the Foundation establishment area, Shaoli said. Jiang Hao glanced at her storage treasure. There must be a lot of things packed inside. She couldn't do as she pleased. The Cliff Master controlled it. If she had too much food, she might hide somewhere and just eat for a year before leaving the realm. Go ahead. Jiang Hao nodded. After that, he watched Shaoli jump in. Her steps did not follow the original path, but changed. She just continued, as per her understanding. Could it be that this formation was something she was seeing for the first time? Jiang Hao was surprised. While he was still being cautious, Shaoli had already soared in her knowledge. Even Zhuge Zheng was stunned. What kind of creature was this? He could clearly see each of her steps, but couldn't comprehend any of them. Yet, there seemed to be no problem at all. Where do you plan to go, friend Jiang? he asked Jiang Hao. Since both of them were in the Golden Core realm, they could go to the same place. What about you? Jiang Hao asked. The stargazing stone forest, Zhuge Zheng said. I'm going to visit the Moon Lake, Jiang Hao said. He was going to the 1,000-Feet Mountain. The Moon Lake was nearby. Zhuge Zheng nodded and didn't say anything further. He hesitated for a moment and recalled their previous encounter in the corpse realm. Friend Jiang, are you planning to do the same as last time? Jiang Hao looked at him and nodded slightly. Do you know about the 1,000-Feet Mountain? He asked. The Soul Ascension area? There's a barren place there. Perhaps it could be safe to do what we did last time. Jiang Hao hadn't expected that. Both of them froze. There was another person nearby who looked a bit proud. She had the highest cultivation among the four of them. She was at the peak of the primordial spirit realm. It was highly likely that she was going inside to seek opportunities. However, Jiang Hao felt that she might have some difficulties because her cultivation was somewhat unrefined. Some people spent their entire lives trying and being unable to reach the primordial spirit realm. While she had reached it easily, it seemed she didn't cherish her talent and resources. She wasted them. Jiang Hao didn't dare to be careless as he entered the formation. He could only barely manage to hold on. His cultivation had reached its limit. It was hard to say what he might encounter inside. It was different from last time. This time, he didn't feel the summoning. It seemed that he wouldn't be summoned again by the heavenly steel mountain. Jiang Hao felt his body begin to descend. Soon he saw a huge lake. It was the Moon Lake. It was said that there were many opportunities in the lake, but it depended on whether one could reach them. At that moment, Jiang Hao suddenly felt his vision blur. Faintly, he heard the sound of ocean waves. He felt a kind of tearing sensation in his body. Startled, he took out the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. In an instant, the pulling sensation disappeared. The sound of ocean waves gradually dissipated, and Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. As expected, he had already known that this would happen. The sealed Earth Extreme Silent Pearl could suppress the body. The pearl wasn't all-powerful, but the effect was certain. It was hard to know how effective it would be. After a while, Jiang Hao landed at the edge of the lake. Some other people arrived with him. Most of them were at the peak of the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao felt helpless. His displayed cultivation was the lowest among them. He hoped that they wouldn't try anything bad. At that moment, the surface of the lake surged as if something was disturbing the water. He turned to look and saw that a mountain appeared and disappeared in the distance. The Heavenly Steel Mountain? Jiang Hao was surprised. He was indeed lucky today. However, it would still take another month for the Heavenly Steel Mountain to fully appear. He decided to go to the 1,000-Feet Mountain first to find the location of the mine and then come back here. He didn't need to rush to the Heavenly Steel Mountain. The last few days would be enough to explore it. He decided to leave now when there weren't many people present. Jiang Hao hopped on his sword and left. Many people looked at him but paid him no mind. While passing through the forest, he changed his appearance. He took on the appearance of a young farmer. He intended to head to the 1,000-Feet Mountain like this, but unexpectedly, he was intercepted. 3 people at the peak of the Golden Core realm appeared in front of him. His displayed cultivation was still at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. Is there something you need, seniors? Asked Jiang Hao. There were 2 men and 1 woman. 2 of them had strong auras and 1 was slightly weaker. They all seemed to be powerful individuals. This path was originally filled with many monsters. We cleared the monsters so you could pass easily, but we suffered heavy losses. As a member of a prestigious, righteous sect, shouldn't you offer some compensation? Said the man in the middle with a smile. Jiang Hao lowered his head. He didn't want anything to do with them. Just as he was about to leave, a net fell from above. It fell on the 3 Golden Core realm cultivators. Immediately after, someone in the peak of the Golden Core realm flew up, grabbed Jiang Hao, and pulled him away. Follow me. Chapter 771. The attitude of a higher cultivation realm cultivator Jiang Hao was pulled away by someone. It was quite unexpected. Ahead of him was a man who looked about 30 years old. He looked quite composed, but his cultivation wasn't very solid. He was at the peak of the Golden Core realm, but his cultivation wasn't as refined as the people from before. To break through, it would require significant opportunities. B0XO. Calm, however. Why would this person suddenly intervene and help him? At first, he thought this person was in cahoots with the others, so he hadn't paid him much attention. He had never expected this person to do the opposite and help him. At this moment, the 3 Golden Core Realm individuals broke through the net and chased after them. The middle-aged man seemed to have anticipated this early on. He pulled Jiang Hao into the woods and then hid in the shadows. There were many formations in the woods. All were at the level of the Golden Core Realm. Jiang Hao lowered his head to look. Although these formations were sturdy, his understanding might not be as good as that of an expert in formations. Breaking through them was quite simple. As the 3 people entered the formations, they felt disoriented and ran away. You are asking for death. Watching the 3 leave, Jiang Hao knew they had fallen into an illusion. Only then did the man beside him relax. Jiang Hao politely said, "Thank you for helping me, friend. It's nothing. These 3 are from a demonic sect. They behave recklessly. They like to unite and target individuals who are alone." The man, with a bit of stubble, looked quite reliable. Jiang Hao nodded. He considered inviting this man to go to the mines with him. "I am a disciple of the Western Waters and Mountains Valley sect. My name is Dole," said the man. Smiling San Sheng, Jiang Hao smiled. He never intended to use his real name, because he could only attract Feng Hua's attention in this way. The other party might also go after Xiao Li, but Xiao Li's Dragon Pearl should be able to negate the threat from someone at the return to Void Realm. She was a true dragon, after all. She was safer here because of restrictions on cultivation. "Your name is quite unique. Are you always smiling?" Dole asked jokingly. Jiang Hao shook his head. "It means smiling through life." "I see." The man looked at him apologetically. "Where do you plan to go, friend?" "I want to find a mine. Do you want to join me?" Jiang Hao looked at him. He didn't understand why this person had decided to save him, but since he was only going to find a cave to mine, there was no harm in inviting him along. As long as he could help find a market to sell the ores, everything would be fine. However, the Soul Ascension area was dangerous. The only possibility was to take the route through Moon Lake to reach the 1,000-feet mountain. The area was remote and not very accessible. "Mining?" Dole was surprised. "Are you here to earn spirit stones?" Jiang Hao nodded. "Understood. It's a little dangerous for you since you don't hide your cultivation," said Dole. "I can help you sell the ores that you mine." "That'd be great. I'll mine for ores. You sell them. We split the profits 50 to 50, said Jiang Hao. "No. You take 60%. I'll take 40%. I heard that mining is very dangerous, so it's only reasonable for you to have more," said Dole politely. Jiang Hao was surprised. Mining for ores wasn't very difficult for him, so he agreed. "Then, let's go," Jiang Hao said. Immediately, the 2 flew off on their swords. On the way, Jiang Hao asked, "Why did you help me?" "I just saw you in trouble, so I decided to help," said Dole. Jiang Hao nodded. The next day, he appraised Dole. He wanted to see who he actually was and what was his goal here. He was surprised. Dole, disciple of the Western Waters and Mountains Valley sect. He is at the peak of the Golden Core Realm. He is only mediocre talent and is comparatively weaker when compared to others in the same realm. He likes to help out those lower in the cultivation realm. He enjoys the feeling of being relied upon and worries about being useless. He is extremely sensitive. Jiang Hao had thought this person wanted to use him for some gain. He never thought the person actually enjoyed helping those weaker than him. He wasn't very strong, but wanted others to perceive him as such. It was extremely important for him to feel reliable and useful. It's no wonder he suggested a 60 to 40 split to show how generous he was. Jiang Hao glanced at him. He looked to be about 30 and seemed indifferent to things around him, yet his eyes were vigilant. It must be tough to maintain such calmness after what happened. Jiang Hao wanted to increase his cultivation to the Soul Ascension realm. After all, in the Soul Ascension area, he would be able to mine in peace if his cultivation was high enough. Otherwise, why transform into his current appearance? But after hesitating for a moment, he gave up on the idea. "Well then, I'll have to rely on you, friend Dole," said Jiang Hao. "Okay." Dole smiled. They weren't slow, but it would still take some time to reach the 1,000-feet mountain. Jiang Hao sped up to push Dole to be a bit faster, too. 7 days later, they arrived at the border of Moon Lake and could see a barren mountain ahead. "This is the 1,000-feet mountain." Dole was shocked. "Yes." Jiang Hao nodded. "It is said that there are no cultivators nearby, so there's no need to worry too much. And we're near the Moon Lake. We can sell the ores here." "That makes sense." Dole nodded. Jiang Hao glanced at him and could tell from his face that Dole was worried, but he tried hard to appear calm. Dry trees stood tall, and spiritual energy was scarce. There are no signs of demonic beasts. Apart from safety, there seemed to be nothing else here. Jiang Hao carefully sensed his surroundings to try to understand the place. If it were just a regular barren land, it would be fine, but he feared there might be a special reason behind it. It could attract trouble. After a while, he discovered that something beneath the mountain seemed to emit an aura that dispersed some spiritual energy. It wasn't just a lack of spiritual energy here. The spiritual energy in one's body would also gradually dissipate. This seems like a good place. Since this place was so barren, no one would come here at all. But he wasn't sure about what lay below. If someone knew about it, they might come looking for the place. As he descended from the sky, Dole asked, "Friend, did you find anything? If you want to choose this place, I can set up formations that will allow you to mine in peace." Jiang Hao was surprised. "I have a bit of talent for formations." Dole chuckled. Jiang Hao nodded. "Then, they'll have to rely on you, friend." After that, Jiang Hao arrived in front of a mountain and used his cultivation to crack open an entrance. As soon as he saw the ores, he started digging. For now, everything was going smoothly. In the blood-tide forest, Shaoli tiptoed around and examined her surroundings. Her face was covered in dust. She looked distressed. The trees and flowers here were dangerous. They could steal people's belongings. It even stole her food. She was furious. She uprooted the flowers and trees in the area as revenge. Now, she had to search around for things to eat. "This is so infuriating. If I see those trees and flowers again, it'll uproot them all." Shaoli grumbled in frustration. Chapter 772, Beginning to Rule the Foundation Establishment Area. 1. Shaoli looked around and realized she was lost. I wonder where senior brother Jiang is. Wherever her senior was, there was usually food. After meeting senior brother Jiang, she had never gone hungry. As she was about to continue, a voice suddenly said from behind, "Stop." Shaoli turned around in confusion and found 3 people standing behind her. She hadn't noticed them before. B0XO. 2 of them were women, while the third one was a man who somewhat resembled Chu Chuan. "Are you calling me?" Shaoli pointed at herself. "Don't go any further," said the woman in white. The 3 of them were guarding a monster. The creature was about to emerge from the man-eating forest. They couldn't let anyone in to avoid startling the monster. Otherwise, why would they care if someone in the middle stage of Foundation Establishment realm wanted to rush into their death? All 3 were at the peak of Foundation Establishment realm. As long as they acted swiftly, they should be able to deal with this middle stage Foundation Establishment realm cultivator quietly. However, they felt the person in front of them seemed a bit naive. She looked like a child, but they didn't dare to be careless because they didn't know if she was only pretending to be like that. The price of a slight misjudgment could be fatal. They couldn't afford to have any accidents. "Why can't I go?" Shaoli took 2 steps back. She was very receptive to advice. There must be a reason why she wasn't allowed to go in. She just wanted a place to hide and find some food. Seeing the young girl step back, the woman's tone softened a bit as she said, "There is a man-eating forest ahead. You'll get eaten if you go in." "Eaten?" Shaoli thought for a moment and asked, "Are those the same trees and flowers that steal food?" "Yes. It's extremely difficult to deal with." "Hey, what are you doing? Stop." Before the woman could finish her words, she saw Shaoli rushing in. The 3 people were shocked. They couldn't stop her in time. She was remarkably fast, which meant she was prepared for this. "Damn, we got played," said the woman in white. She thought the young girl was actually a child. She never expected the child to deceive her. But why did she rush in? Isn't she putting herself in danger? The young man asked. Maybe she thought we meant her harm, said the short-haired woman. They felt this was likely, but they couldn't let the person act recklessly. They had to go and check on her. Waiting here would be useless. The three immediately followed Shaoli inside. Soon, they heard a rumble. It was hopeless now. This is infuriating. A child has ruined our efforts, said the woman in white angrily. They thought that she wouldn't cause much damage since she was a child, but she had ruined everything. Boom, boom, boom. The sounds followed in succession. It felt as though the entire forest was trembling. They were shocked. Something was strange about this situation. As they got closer, they were even more shocked. They found it hard to believe. The child who should have been fragile seemed like a different person in here. She walked among the trees and flowers. She looked very angry, and her fists constantly swung at the trees and plants. Wherever she went, plants withered and flowers wilted. She was extremely fast, and she emitted a blue light. When she stopped, the trees and flowers behind her exploded. Petals and leaves fell like ashes. Blood scattered across the ground. At that moment, the young girl turned to look at them. The three people were shaken to their core. "Do you have something to say?" Her calm, yet puzzled voice made the three of them instinctively take a few steps back. They were worried that she might rush toward them. After a little while, whole man-eating trees were uprooted. The three people were now afraid. Rumble. Xiao Li's stomach grumbled, and she pouted. "I'm hungry. I have some food here," said the woman in white as she took out some pastries. These were prepared at home and were expensive and delicious. At the Golden Core area, Inshuini was intercepted by someone in black. "Who are you?" "Someone who wants to help you vent your anger." The voice of the stranger was hoarse, but it was undoubtedly a woman. Inshuini frowned. Her hand gripped her sword. "You want to help me? Are you searching for someone? Perhaps a Golden Core realm cultivator?" said the woman in black. "What if I am?" Inshuini asked. "Is this person named Jiang? He humiliated you when he was just at the Golden Core realm." "How dare he humiliate you?" asked the woman in black. "What are you trying to say?" Inshuini asked coldly. "I just wanted to tell you, he's not in this area. He's at Moon Lake." The woman in black robe smiled. "Of course, he might have already gone somewhere else, but I can quickly track his location. Do you want my help? Are you trying to tell me how to do things?" Inshuini was angry. "Of course not. I'm just a cultivator in the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm. I'm not your match. How could someone like me dare to tell you what to do?" "I'm just being opportunistic," said the woman in black. Inshuini relaxed slightly. She then turned and left. The woman in black robes just watched quietly. After the person left, she chuckled. Such a person is truly likable. Killing her would be such a pity. What's there to pity? At that moment, a man emerged from behind a tree. "She is just a disgrace to the sect. Let her go and kill someone, and then the Heavenly Notes sect won't spare her." The woman in black smiled. "Should we follow along? In case she doesn't succeed, it would be nice to lend her a hand." Chapter 773. Beginning to rule the Foundation Establishment Area 2. No need. Just present the evidence to the Heavenly Notes sect when the time comes. It's said that the list of names is with the law enforcement hall. If someone gets killed, they might take action. This way, nothing will implicate us. It's a pity that the other two haven't come in. Otherwise, we could have dealt with them all together, said the man with a sigh. The woman in black didn't mind. "I heard that the Heavenly Notes sect members are heading to the Foundation Establishment Area. Should we send someone there?" The man was puzzled. The woman in black smiled. "A fallen Immortal Clan member has entered, and it seems the fallen Immortal Clan is looking for someone. Perhaps we could ask them. Do we need spirit stones? It depends on you, senior. Your cultivation is very high, after all." After that, the two headed off into the distance. Jiang Hao dug for a long time and finally unearthed an ore. A blue bubble dropped. Cultivation +1. Is the probability of achieving bubbles this high here? Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised. He then took out his pickaxe and began mining. Sounds echoed from inside. White bubbles and green bubbles appeared one after another. An hour later, Jiang Hao discovered that the possibility of finding blue bubbles wasn't that high. Moreover, this, or upon closer inspection, was blood red. It might not be that significant. It was hard to say how many spirit stones it could fetch. However, earning spirit stones wasn't a priority, so it didn't matter how much they got paid for the ore. As he was about to continue, his vision blurred, and he heard the waves again. He didn't dare be careless and summoned the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl immediately. After that, everything disappeared. No, mining like this is very dangerous. He lost himself while digging for ores. If he were pulled into the sea, it would be dangerous. After some hesitation, he decided to use the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl as a nightlight. He also took out the 9 nether just in case. "Can you understand?" he asked hastily. The 9 nether nodded eagerly. The 9 nether seemed to have been influenced by Shaoli. It behaved like a puppy. "Keep an eye on the surroundings. If there's any change, break the seal," he said. Upon hearing that, the 9 nether looked desperate. IR didn't dare move near the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. Attack the seal? It wasn't like it could break out. Jiang Hao left behind a wisp of purple aura, which made it even safer. Then, he notified Dole to get ready to set up formations. Dole nodded. "Leave it to me. He'll check the nearby area. It's better for you not to go out. If people from a Soul Ascension area discover you, it would be disastrous." Jiang Hao nodded in gratitude. He fell silent as he watched the person head toward Moon Lake. Finally, he turned and looked behind. "You've been watching us for a long time, haven't you? Although I wasn't hiding myself intentionally, I'm not someone that a golden core realm cultivator can sense," said a middle-aged man as he walked out from behind the withered tree. He had a lock of white hair on his forehead, a clean face, and a scholarly appearance. He was in the late stage of the Soul Ascension realm. Jiang Hao looked at him calmly. "Senior, why are you here? I wanted to see what you were up to. It's strange for a golden core realm cultivator to come here. I didn't expect you to be mining. Can you tell me what's in a mine?" the middle-aged man asked. Jiang Hao shook his head. "I don't know. I'm just here to mine and earn some spirit stones." "That's a shame. I'm also here to earn spirit stones, but I'm not planning to mine. How about handing over your storage treasure to me?" the middle-aged man asked. "Do you lack spirit stones, senior?" "I'm all right, but my expenses have been high lately, and I only have around 10,000 left." "That's quite a lot." Jiang Hao took a step forward. This closed the distance between him and the middle-aged man. The man's eyes narrowed, and he began to retreat. However, no matter how he withdrew, he couldn't widen the gap. At that moment, Jiang Hao's blade was already at the man's neck. He slashed. Blood splattered on the ground. Panic, fear, and disbelief flashed in the middle-aged man's face. He felt despair. This person wasn't a golden core realm cultivator. "Senior, please spare me." He knelt and bowed. Jiang Hao looked at him and frowned. He had kneeled too quickly. He didn't even pay attention to the wound on his neck. "How many spirit stones do you have?" Jiang Hao asked again. "In truth, I only have 15,000. Otherwise, I wouldn't think of robbing anyone, not even a golden core realm cultivator." Jiang Hao praised him. Guan Zhongfei, disciple of the Divine Rotation sect. At the late stage of the Soul Ascension realm, due to a shortage of spirit stones, he planned to rob people. He planned to rob you because he thought you were a golden core realm cultivator. He wants to use the spirit stones to buy the god origin pill to advance in his cultivation realm. Jiang Hao found this person honest. "Give me the spirit stones." Jiang Hao extended his hand. Guan Zhongfei didn't say a word and handed over the spirit stones. There was a total of 15,325 spirit stones. Now, he had 20,000 left. Previously, he had over 10,000 and spent 10,000 to buy the red azure tea. "Can you suppress or conceal your cultivation?" Jiang Hao asked. "Yes, I can," Guan Zhongfei said as he clutched at his neck. "Then, it'll have to trouble you to suppress your cultivation to the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. After that, pretend to run into the person who just left and beg him to bring you here and share the work," said Jiang Hao as he put his blade away. "Is that difficult for you?" "Not difficult at all. I understand what you mean. "He'll go and do it," Guan Zhongfei said. Jiang Hao nodded. After that, Guan Zhongfei quickly departed. In the evening, Dole returned with some spirit herbs and an injured man. "It was Guan Zhongfei. I rescued him on the way here. With his cultivation, he shouldn't cause us any trouble. Friend, I wanted to ask you if he can stay here with us. If not, they'll send him away," said Dole. Chapter 774, Beginning to Rule the Foundation Establishment Area 3. "All right, they'll follow your lead, friend Dole," said Jiang Hao with a nod. "Thank you, Dole." Guan Zhongfei pretended to be grateful. Dole began planting spirit herbs, while Jiang Hao entered the mine to start digging. Guan Zhongfei sat in a corner and rested. He felt confused. However, he knew that he couldn't do anything but comply. Updated on B0X0VL. Calm after surviving that encounter, he didn't want to risk anything. He was just a little puzzled why such a powerful cultivator pretended to be in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. Perhaps he wanted someone to help him with the tasks. Jiang Hao didn't waste any time and began mining inside the cave. He dug as much as he could in a day. Half a month later, Jiang Hao finally emerged from the mine. He realized something was off here. Mining at night was difficult, but during the day, it was easier. Moreover, the spiritual energy was continuously dissipating. If he wasn't inherently strong, mining would be extremely challenging. Even after half a month, his harvest wasn't insignificant. He had only gained around 8 blue bubbles. It was much better than from the flower back at his place, but still, advancing would take more than a year. Mining alone wasn't enough. He needed to go to the Heavenly Steel Mountain. "Senior Brother Dole, you're really amazing. I've been studying this formation for a long time, but couldn't figure it out," said Guan Zhongfei admiringly as he held something in his hand. It was something he had obtained a long time ago. He couldn't unlock it, even with improved cultivation. He worried that the contents might be damaged. Finally, his wish was fulfilled. "There should be a hidden compartment somewhere," Dole said kindly. At that moment, Guan Zhongfei discovered that there was indeed a hidden compartment, and it held a letter. He was stunned. He opened the letter and read it aloud. After a while, he looked forlorn. Jiang Hao noticed a red flower symbol on the back of the envelope. Presumably, this letter was sent by a woman. "Friend San Sheng," said Dole as he pointed to the spirit herbs he had planted. "These are the spirit herbs found in the vicinity. They have some effect. They can be sold together with the ores later." He hesitated for a moment, then said, "There might be a need for friend Guan's help in the future, so I'm thinking of giving him share of the profit. They'll take 20% of the profit and give him 20% of my total share." Jiang Hao shook his head. "No, I can take 40%, and you can have 30% each." Jiang Hao brought out a lot of ores. "You could try selling these too." Dole was quite surprised when he looked at the ores. He had also mined before and knew it wasn't easy. Once the ores were stored away, Jiang Hao and the others set off for Heavenly Steel Mountain. In 7 days, the Heavenly Steel Mountain was expected to appear. It was supposed to be exactly 1 month later. In the blood-tide forest, a monster howled in agony in a corner. Some cultivators were hiding in the shadows. For the past month, this entire forest had been chaotic. "What exactly happened? Have any of you tried to find out?" asked a woman as she hid behind a huge rock. There were 3 others beside her. The 4 of them had joined hands in seeking opportunities. In the beginning, everything was fine. Later, they sensed some disturbance in the forest. Some monsters were fleeing. The number of monsters was substantial, so it made them reluctant to face them head-on. There was also a rampant insect infestation. "It seems that there's a decrease in man-eating flowers and trees, and it has caused an imbalance in the ecosystem," said a man. "It's said that a cultivator with exceptional talent obtained some opportunity and is now ruling over the entire forest. Perhaps some Golden Core Realm cultivators might come to resolve the issue. When that happens, the Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator will be in trouble." Chapter 775, Life and Death Decided with Just One Punch. Xiao Li was huffing as she pulled out a man-eating tree. Finally, she let out a sigh of relief. However, the three people behind her were sweating profusely. They had seen everything by now. Wherever there were trees or flowers, they were destroyed. This child killed every tree she encountered, without exception. Updated on B0X and 0VL. Calm when they asked her why, she told them these trees and flowers had stolen her food. Now, besides filling her stomach, she was intent on destroying these trees and flowers. An eye for an eye. The three of them didn't dare to offend her in the slightest and could only follow her. They even searched for food for her. Only then could they survive. Her strength was unbelievable regardless of her cultivation realm. This has caught too much attention. Some Golden Core realm cultivators might come here. There are rumors that this junior obtained a treasure that can even control the blood-tide forest. It doesn't matter whether it is true or not. Someone will definitely be here to check it out, said the young man, Zheng Fahua, in concern. The Golden Core realm cultivators here were either in the late stages or at the peak. The early-stage Golden Core realm cultivators were absent because they needed the others to advance and leave before they could step foot anywhere. I hope this junior can restrain herself. The blood-tide forest has been facing a lot of problems lately, said the woman in white by Shuang, helplessly. They could only survive because they were doing everything to feed the young girl. They knew which monsters could be eaten and which couldn't. Moreover, if they looked around, they might find a way to bring the situation under control. However, Xiaoli only knew how to roast meat and nothing else. Only after all the trees in the area were destroyed did Xiaoli finally relax and take out something to eat. Otherwise, she couldn't eat in peace. I wonder where senior brother Jiang is. I need to tell him that these trees and flowers are very dangerous. Xiaoli thought as she ate. At that moment, there was suddenly a thunderous attack from the distance. Boom! A powerful attack landed directly on Xiaoli and sent her flying. This sudden attack terrified the three people beside her. This wasn't the aura of a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. That meant a Golden Core Realm cultivator had arrived. Moreover, the powerful attack hit Xiaoli directly. It was over. In an instant, the three knew that Xiaoli was in grave danger. Even if she wasn't dead, she was surely injured. Xiaoli rolled on the ground. After some time, she finally fell into a puddle. At that moment, the food in her hand also fell into the puddle and hit the mud. Xiaoli was covered in mud and was furious. She looked in the direction where the attack had come from. You wasted my food. I'm angry now. At that moment, three people arrived in the sky with their flying swords. They emitted a majestic aura. The overwhelming pressure of the peak of the Golden Core realm spread in all directions. She's not injured? In that case, the man in the lead looked at Xiaoli condescendingly. However, before he finished speaking, his vision was suddenly blocked by a figure. There was a blue light and a tiny fist emerged from within it. In the next moment, the fist suddenly enlarged. Boom! A punch was thrown. It tore the man's skin, incinerated his flesh, and broke his bones. The flames burned over him. With a single punch, the peak Golden Core Realm cultivator was reduced to ashes. There was no trace of his bones either. The blue light didn't disappear. It continued to emanate the aura of a true dragon. Xiaoli was even more furious now that the person she attacked had disappeared. She turned to the other two. The sudden attack terrified the two Golden Core Realm cultivators. However, before they could react, the fist had already appeared before them. Boom! Boom! After two successive punches, no one was left standing in the sky. There was no trace of anyone. With a thud, Xiaoli fell to the ground and looked around. She couldn't find the three people from before at all. Darn it, they escaped. She stomped her foot in frustration. The three people who were watching from behind were dumbfounded. This girl, it was unbelievable. But soon they were certain of one thing. Xiaoli didn't like it when food went to waste. The three people had made her food fall into the mud. That was why this disaster had happened. The man-eating forest seemed to have snatched her food away as well. In their eyes, Xiaoli was no longer an ordinary cultivator. She appeared to be an unpredictable little demon. Jiang Hao and the others flew their swords toward the Moon Lake. It was a loss not to visit Heavenly Steel Mountain. What do you know about Heavenly Steel Mountain? Dole asked suddenly. Jiang Hao shook his head. Guan Zhongfei said, Heavenly Steel Mountain is the gathering place for all the opportunities in the corpse realm. Any insights obtained elsewhere can also be obtained at Heavenly Steel Mountain. Even if the opportunities are not great, one can still gain some benefits. What kind of opportunities do you all want? Dou was curious. Jiang Hao thought for a moment. I just want to try my luck. Guan Zhongfei said, I want spirit stones or things that can be sold for spirit stones. How about you, senior brother Dou? I want cultivation techniques. My cultivation techniques are somewhat average. Dou smiled. Senior brother Dou, your cultivation realm is high. So, how can your technique be just average? Asked Guan Zhongfei in surprise. Jiang Hao could tell that Dou's cultivation techniques were rather average. Dou laughed. The technique is just average. There's nothing to it. He didn't elaborate on the matter. If you have any questions about cultivation, you can ask me. I might be able to help, Dou said. Guan Zhongfei thanked him and mentioned a difficult but quite common issue. Sure enough, Dou provided an answer. Jiang Hao glanced at Guan Zhongfei. He didn't pay much attention to it, since this person didn't mean any harm anyway. 7 days later, they arrived again at the shore of the Moon Lake. At that moment, Heavenly Steel Mountain stood tall in the center of the lake. Its enormous peaks pierced the clouds. It was magnificent. This was Jiang Hao's first time seeing Heavenly Steel Mountain from afar. Before, it had appeared directly in front of him. It is quite spectacular, Dou exclaimed. This is where opportunities are. It seems that many people are going up. At that moment, people were flying in all directions and heading toward Heavenly Steel Mountain. Jiang Hao and Guan Zhongfei followed Dou's lead, but kept their swords low. They didn't dare to fly too high to avoid offending stronger individuals. Most of the people were no threat to Guan Zhongfei. It seems like there are many primordial spirit realm cultivators here, Dou said softly. Yeah, after all, the 1,000 Feet Mountain is nearby, Jiang Hao said. After a short while, they arrived at the foot of Heavenly Steel Mountain. Once they went up, they would be able to see the first steel. Jiang Hao and the others went up together. The first steel was accessible to everyone, but what came after would depend on their abilities. After a while, Jiang Hao and the others arrived in front of the first steel. Like before, the steel was inscribed with the words, Moon in the Well. This time, Jiang Hao didn't go to see the content or sense any special content of the steel. He wanted to touch it and see if there was any dirt on it. Chapter 776. Bubbles falling non-stop. There were many people at the first stone steel, but most of them merely observed without truly understanding it. Why do they keep staring? Guan Zhongfei asked. I've heard that opportunities are hard to come by. Heavenly Steel Mountain will only stay here for a month, and obtaining an opportunity within that time is already at the limit, Dou said. Guan Zhongfei nodded. Do you want to go up and take a look? The first stone steel wasn't much. There was nothing much to glean from it. Updated on B0X and 0VL. Was common knowledge that the good stuff was at the top. Jiang Hao shook his head. You go up first. He'll stay here and take a look. Then, friend, be careful. We'll meet at the foot of the mountain after we're done, Dou said. Jiang Hao nodded. Guan Zhongfei relaxed and began climbing up. As they moved away, Jiang Hao thought about what to do. With so many people, it seemed odd for him to wipe the steel clean. So, he activated the Heavenly Cauldron. He pulled everyone into it and then veiled their perceptions. However, when he attempted to wipe the steel, he found that it was impossible. The stone steel couldn't be brought into the cauldron. With a sigh, he put away the Heavenly Cauldron. He tampered with their perceptions with divine power so that they would only see illusions. There was no dirt. There was only some dirt at the bottom. When he wiped it, several bubbles spawned. None were blue or green. Jiang Hao wasn't too disappointed. It was better than nothing. The first steel was seen and touched by all. It was only natural that it was clean. He was satisfied as long as he could get even a few bubbles. This increased the likelihood of something significant being up at the top. After wiping the steel, he gained 10 white bubbles. Jiang Hao stepped toward the second stone steel. The others didn't notice anything unusual. Most here were Golden Core Realm cultivators and were easily deceived. The situation might change later if he encountered a Primordial Spirit Realm cultivator. The rest should be easy. Even if he was discovered, it wouldn't cause him any damage. But before making his move, he needed to observe the surroundings and ensure no hidden cultivators were around. He tried not to offend anyone, especially with stronger cultivators. It was always better not to act rashly. At the second stone stele, there were mostly Golden Core Realm cultivators, but notably fewer than at the first. He activated his divine power again. He wiped the stele and gained only 8 white bubbles. Just because he got more this time didn't mean he got something better. Jiang Hao glanced at the peak of the mountain. There were 108 stone steles in total, 36 heavenly constellation spirits, and 72 earth seals. Among them, reaching the heavenly constellation spirits was extremely challenging, but the earth seals were relatively easier. So, the heavenly constellation spirits might yield good returns. I wonder if anyone will reach the highest point this time. Many aspire to reach the top, but only a few succeeded. He didn't know if there were any remarkable people this time. At the third stone stele, Dole had stayed behind. Jiang Hao didn't greet him, but used divine power to deceive everyone and then wiped the stone stele. This time, there were 2 green bubbles. That's something. At least, Jiang Hao continued upward. By the 10th stone stele, he finally got a blue bubble. Cultivation +1. He glanced at his interface. It was currently July, and he hadn't accumulated many bubbles. Name, Jiang Hao. Age, 36. Cultivation level, peak of the return to the Void Realm. Cultivation method, Heavenly Sound 100 revolutions, Hong Meng Heart Sutra, divine ability. 9 revolutions death substitution, unique, daily appraisal, clear and pure heart, reappearance of hidden spirit, divine might, revival of withered tree, heavenly cauldron, indestructible Vajra, lifeblood. 12/100 can be cultivated. Cultivation, 9/100 cannot be cultivated. Divine abilities, 1/3 cannot be obtained. Since it was only the 10th stele, there were still many people. However, the number of Golden Core Realm cultivators started decreasing. Conflict rarely occurred on Heavenly Steel Mountain. Everyone was here to seek opportunities, not to fight. After that, Jiang Hao occasionally encountered blue bubbles. At the 30th stone stele, Jiang Hao didn't see Guan Zhongfei. He probably headed to the heavenly constellation spirits. Regardless, it didn't affect him. Jiang Hao arrived at the last earth seal, the 72nd stone stele. The last earth seal must be special. There weren't many people here. There were only about a dozen with a high cultivation realm. Even the weakest was in the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm. Jiang Hao's arrival didn't attract anyone's attention. By now, his cultivation had changed. He was no longer in the Golden Core realm, but at the peak of the primordial spirit realm. If someone noticed him, they wouldn't cause trouble. Sky in the well. Jiang Hao looked at the words in surprise. Was it the same last time? It was too quick then, so he had no time to pay attention. Many people began climbing up. Among them was a young man with a sword. He stood in place for a long time. He then shook his head and sighed. It's not what I want. He then continued forward in dissatisfaction. Jiang Hao glanced at the person. He was also at the peak of the primordial spirit realm. His aura resembled a sharp sword with restrained sword intent. He was very strong. Fortunately, he had left. Jiang Hao didn't want to use his divine abilities recklessly. There was a chance of being discovered. After waiting for some time, Jiang Hao activated his divine ability, Divine Might. After veiling their perception, Jiang Hao approached the stone stele to start wiping. Unlike before, this stone stele was surprisingly dirty. After he wiped for a while, 2 blue bubbles popped up. Cultivation +1, lifeblood +1, so many. Jiang Hao was astonished, but he continued wiping. Strength +1, spirit +1, cultivation +1, spirit sword +1, spirit spear +1, lifeblood +1. As Jiang Hao wiped, a string of bubbles dropped. The speed at which they popped up made him happy. He had never expected there to be so many. Jiang Hao wiped slowly. He feared he might wipe the stone steel clean too quickly. He wondered if the last stone steel was special. Whenever the dirt was cleared, bubbles appeared. Although most were white or green, they were incomparable to the previous stone steels. At that moment, his cultivation points were gradually increasing. He might not have to wait for a year to advance if this was the case. After a little while, Jiang Hao finished wiping the last corner. Lifeblood +1, a blue bubble fell. Looking at the clean stone steel, Jiang Hao felt reluctant to leave. He wiped it again to make sure he hadn't missed any spots. At the foot of Heavenly Steel Mountain, Yin Shuani looked at the peak. She stayed at the first stone steel. Jiang Hao would definitely pass through here. It would be much easier to find him this way. Unless he dared not come, she didn't believe anyone would reject such an opportunity. As long as she killed him, her thoughts would be clear, and it would help immensely with her cultivation. Perhaps there was a chance for her to reach the soul ascension realm. However, she couldn't concentrate on her cultivation. All she could think about was how Jiang Hao had humiliated her. Her complex emotions made her resonate with the first stone steel. For a moment, she entered an empty space where she saw only one figure who was using a divine ability. The colors of the sky and earth changed. Chapter 777. The Infinite Sword. After finishing wiping the last Earth seal, Jiang Hao headed toward the 36 heavenly constellation spirits. However, after he left, many people noticed that something was amiss. They didn't realize that their perception had been played with, but they noticed that the stone steel before them was cleaner than before. What was going on? Several people looked around, but found nothing. They just dismissed the matter. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M. By this time, Jiang Hao had reached the first stone steel of the heavenly constellation spirits. Guan Zhongfei was there. He stood in front of the first stone steel with his brows furrowed. He was the only one there. Jiang Hao didn't use his divine ability, but walked over to him. Guan Zhongfei looked at the newcomer. Then, he immediately moved aside. The first heavenly constellation spirit's stone steel had some words written on it. Fishing for moon in the well. Jiang Hao was speechless. Why was Heavenly Steel Mountain obsessed with wells? Jiang Hao's name was Jing in the gathering, which meant wells. He was quite sensitive to that. He always felt it was somehow related to him. Apart from these words, there was nothing else on the stone steel. It's empty. Fishing for the moon in the well means rushing towards something that doesn't exist. Does it mean that this stone steel has nothing inside? Jiang Hao stood there and stared at it for a while. In the end, he decided to start wiping it. This sudden move surprised Guan Zhongfei. Jiang Hao didn't care about him and continued wiping the stone steel. Soon, bubbles started dropping. Cultivation +1, spirit +1. It wasn't much, but passable. After a while, he reluctantly left. As the sole spectator, Guan Zhongfei was somewhat bewildered. He couldn't understand what the person in front of him was doing. He suddenly thought of a possibility. Could it be that fishing for the moon in the well means reaching out? Is he cleaning the stone steel to tell me to make contact? Otherwise, why would someone do this? Guan Zhongfei felt that the explanation was highly likely. He approached the stone steel and reached out. He sensed something. Soon, he felt that his hand had pierced through something. Then, he saw a figure. He held the sun and moon in his hands and plucked the stars in the sky. Jiang Hao arrived at the second stone steel of the heavenly constellation spirits. There were several people there, but they were all in a state of meditation. Outsiders usually found it challenging to interfere during this state. So, Jiang Hao felt at ease and began to wipe the steel clean. Further ahead, the stone steels had less dirt on them. There were some bubbles, but rarely any blue ones. It was all right. There were still 36 steels left. Since the time he had entered Heavenly Steel Mountain, he was only 180 bubbles away from ascension. The gap was gradually narrowing. The higher he went, the fewer people he saw. The last 15 stone steels had no one. However, what surprised Jiang Hao was that he hadn't seen the young man with restrained sword intent all the way up. He didn't know which stone steel he had gone to. He arrived at the 35th heavenly constellation Spirit Steel and found no one there. He went all the way to the top. Jiang Hao was surprised. For the previous 107 steels, no one was there, so it must be the last stone steel that everyone wanted to reach. Those who could reach that point were geniuses. Zhuang Yuzhen had also gone up, but left no trace. I wonder if that person will leave something behind. Jiang Hao was puzzled, but also very excited. Before, when he had wiped it, he had gotten all blue bubbles. Without thinking too much, Jiang Hao arrived at the 35th stone steel and started wiping. Cultivation +1, lifeblood +1. Seeing 2 blue bubbles dropping at once, Jiang Hao felt that he might be about to advance. However, halfway through wiping, no blue bubbles appeared. It was regrettable. Fortunately, some more appeared later. After he finished, Jiang Hao headed toward the top. There must be someone up there. He didn't know if the person was a meditation. At the peak of Heavenly Steel Mountain, a young man silently gazed at the stone steel before him. He wasn't in a hurry to comprehend anything, especially since he had a feeling that someone was approaching from behind. After a while, footsteps sounded from behind. 2 people stood in front of the last stone steel. This was a rare occurrence. The young man turned to look at Jiang Hao. "I didn't expect it to be you," the young man said slowly. Jiang Hao felt helpless. The person seemed to be in a daze. "Do you know me, friend?" he asked. "No. I've only seen you down below and felt that you're somewhat extraordinary," the man said. Jiang Hao nodded slightly. He was unsure of what to do. The person was alert, and any rashness would be disastrous. "I'm Jian Wuji from the Mountain Sea Sword Sect," said Jian Wuji politely. Smiling Sansheng. Jiang Hao bowed. Jian Wuji looked at the person in front of him. "We are in the same realm and can reach the highest peak, so I have an unfortunate request. Please do tell me, friend," Jiang Hao said courteously. "I want to test your strength." Jiang Hao shook his head. He didn't intend to fight. He had only come here to wipe the steel clean. Jian Wuji made a move, and a pitch-black sword fell to the ground. This infinite sword is part of the Mountain Sea Sword Sect's 7 extreme sky swords. If you win against me, you can take it away. "What if I lose?" Jiang Hao asked. "Then either leave the mountain or leave behind something of equal value," Jian Wuji said. "And what if I refuse?" Jiang Hao asked again. "My sword's intent won't attack, but it will compel you to fight me," Jian Wuji said earnestly. Jiang Hao sighed. "Shall we start then?" "Of course." Jian Wuji nodded. In an instant, the blade intent erupted and the sword intent surged. After just a few clashes, the sword intent receded and the blade intent disappeared. At that moment, Jiang Hao appeared in front of Jian Wuji. The two looked at each other. Jiang Hao walked to the side of the infinite sword, raised his sword, and walked toward the stone tablet. As he spoke, Jian Wuji realized that he was injured between his eyebrows. Blood trickled down. His eyes looked as though they had lost their light. "This is the heavenly blade," Jiang Hao said calmly. "Why didn't you kill me?" Jian Wuji's aura began to recede. He hadn't held back. "We aren't of the same era. Your time hasn't come yet. Such a person dying under the heavenly blade would be a shame," Jiang Hao said. Jian Wuji was indeed strong. Their paths were different, but it wasn't necessary to sever their connection just because of a match. With a thud, Jian Wuji fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Jiang Hao didn't exert too much force. He just ensured that Jian Wuji wouldn't be causing trouble for a while. In fact, Jiang Hao had the advantage of being in a higher realm. He had won unfairly. Jiang Hao impaled the infinite sword into the ground and left a note with it. "Those destined may obtain it." After that, he began wiping the stone steel clean. Chapter 778. Imitating the stars in a palm ability, the infinite sword was not an ordinary sword. Jiang Hao could tell with just one glance. However, such a sword would undoubtedly attract attention from the Mountain Sea Sword Sect. He didn't need the trouble it would cause if he held on to it. However, sealing it away was a bit disappointing. It would be better to keep it for now. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siamakron, the destined person, was obviously Jian Wuji, who was unconscious presently. As for whether he would want it back, that remained to be seen. People had their own pride. So, he didn't directly hand it over to him, but left it impaled in the ground. Jiang Hao looked toward the stone stele. This stone stele had no content, but he didn't care about the secrets it held inside. He just wanted to wipe it clean. Last time, he hadn't finished wiping it, so he couldn't afford to miss it now. Jiang Hao took out a piece of cloth. The same cloth had wiped the heavenly blade, the Xianyuan sword, and many other steels. He began wiping the steel on the spots where he had wiped before, and white bubbles fell from it. These were insignificant. Soon, he finished wiping the areas he had wiped before, but there were no blue bubbles. He then started wiping the spots he had missed before. Cultivation +1, lifeblood +1. Here it comes. Lifeblood +1. He continued wiping. Cultivation +1. Jiang Hao was shaken. There were quite a few bubbles. However, after a few more wipes, they disappeared. Fortunately, shortly after, they reappeared. Some time passed in this manner. Jiang Hao stood desolately in front of the stone stele. He finished wiping it. He reached out to touch the stele and felt a bit regretful. There wouldn't be any blue bubbles appearing for several hundred years. Only when enough time had passed would blue bubbles appear again. Otherwise, there would only be white and green ones. It would only be a waste. Then he sensed it. The stone stele changed. The blank stone stele now displayed some figures. Some held the sun and the moon. Some danced with swords to cut rivers and lakes. Some radiated the brilliance of sages, and some transformed into 9 figures. Within these figures, Jiang Hao saw a purple aura, within which sat a figure in meditation. That was him. Jiang Hao was quite surprised. It turned out there really was a figure inside. But what use was this? He looked at the various figures and eventually noticed that there were a total of 18 figures left on the stone stele, 3 of which had dimmed. Did the dimming of the 3 figures signify their deaths? Jiang Hao was puzzled. He withdrew his hand, and the figures disappeared. Jiang Hao didn't understand what was going on. He let it be since it didn't affect him. He then turned to leave. It was time to return to mining. Before leaving, he glanced at his interface. Lifeblood, 82/100 can be cultivated. Cultivation, 79/100 can be cultivated. He was still a bit lacking, but it was close. Another 1 or 2 months of mining, and he could attempt advancing to a higher realm. However, a question remained. Would he still be safe after advancement? With the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl, it shouldn't be too dangerous. But was it really okay to ascend to a higher realm under the influence of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl? Jiang Hao sighed. He was unsure of what to do. Then, he headed down and found Dole. He left a message and disappeared from a spot. He had to return. Flying back would be a waste of time, so he teleported from there. With the subring in the mine, it was very convenient. Once again, he appeared in the mine within the 1,000-feet mountain. After examining the surroundings, he began mining. He wanted to ascend to the immortal ascension platform. He couldn't afford to miss opportunities here. As for the spirit herbs outside, they were too ordinary and wouldn't produce blue bubbles. Jiang Hao mined eagerly. 1 month later, around early August, Jiang Hao realized that there was still quite a way to go before he could advance. It would take him another month or so. The yield from the mine began to decline. Everything depended on luck here. Fortunately, there were other alternatives. He lacked just over 20 points more. He could try advancing to the immortal ascension platform in 1 or 2 months. He couldn't go on accumulating bubbles because the bubbles would vanish if his cultivation points were at their max. It was wasteful. It was better to wait for other opportunities and continue digging. Jiang Hao emerged from the mine and sat in the small wooden house that Dole had built. He discovered that he could indeed gather spiritual energy here, and the spirit herbs could survive. Dole's talent in formations is quite high, Jiang Hao said in surprise. He found that many people had good talents in formations, but he was completely clueless. Having spent too much time in the mine, his spiritual energy was completely depleted. He needed to rest for a day or 2 and take care of the spirit herbs so that he could prepare himself for more digging. 2 days later, Jiang Hao resumed mining. 7 days later, Dole and the others returned. Jiang Hao gave them the ores he had mined so they could sell them. Looking at the piled-up mountain of ores, Dole and Guan Zhongfei were shocked. Everyone else is seizing opportunities at Heavenly Steel Mountain, and you've been mining the whole time? Guan Zhongfei didn't dare ask that aloud. Friend San Sheng, did you have any trouble at Heavenly Steel Mountain? Dole asked. No trouble at all. I just prefer mining, said Jiang Hao. Dole hesitated for a moment. He then handed over a book. Take this. Jiang Hao was puzzled and took the book to take a look. He found that it contained various methods for forging. He had no idea about it. This is the profound forging technique, I comprehended. I don't have talent in this area, so I'm giving it to you. Considering how skilled you are at mining, I assume you might be interested in this, Dole said in a low voice. Jiang Hao nodded and accepted it. Thank you very much, friend Dole. No problem. Dole shook his head. At that moment, Jiang Hao glanced at Guan Zhongfei. The latter's heart sank. He immediately said, I comprehended a supernatural power called stars in a palm. Although I really want to teach you, it's not recorded anywhere. I can't teach it if I haven't mastered it. What's it like? Jiang Hao asked because the name sounded somewhat similar to the universe in a palm ability that he had. He'll show it to you. Guan Zhongfei reached out toward a distant boulder. A force expanded and enveloped the boulder. Guan Zhongfei then closed his fingers and withdrew his hand. The boulder shrank and was trapped in the palm of his hand. Afterward, the force dissipated and the boulder returned to its original size. You can't sustain it, Jiang Hao asked. Guan Zhongfei shook his head. Jiang Hao nodded. It seemed there was quite a gap in this ability when compared to universe in a palm. The supernatural power did seem to imitate it. However, the universe in a palm was just a technique, not a supernatural power. Supernatural powers were difficult to teach, but techniques were easier to learn. After thinking for a while, Jiang Hao began to imitate stars in a palm. Since he knew how to use universe in a palm, he might be able to imitate it. After a while, he reached out towards stone. The stone shrank and was sucked into his hand. He didn't use any purple energy. When the force dissipated, the stone returned to its normal size. Guan Zhongfei was astonished. Did he just learn it? Jiang Hao wrote down his findings and handed them to Dole. Senior brother, please take a look at this. I feel like what I comprehended at Heavenly Steel Mountain is quite similar, but I've been feeling that something is not quite right. Dole agreed wholeheartedly. After that, Jiang Hao went back inside to continue mining. On the other side, Yin Shiweni waited until Heavenly Steel Mountain disappeared, but the person she wanted to see didn't appear. She was puzzled. Did he really not care about opportunities? Chapter 779. Almost time for advancement at Moon Lake. It wasn't just Yin Shiweni who was puzzled, but also the woman in black robes and the people beside her. They were all perplexed. We didn't spot him. Why is that? The woman in black robes frowned. They had always assumed Jiang Hao would come here, but unexpectedly, he never showed up. Since the Heavenly Note sect is not an option, let's consider other alternatives, the man said calmly. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M with so many people here, there must be someone they could use. However, Yin Shiweni had good cultivation, and there weren't many who could kill her. Fortunately, the 1,000 Feet Mountain was nearby. There should be many people there who could fight her. Let's first assess the situation around us and then devise a plan, the man said. The woman in black robes nodded. The people from the Fallen Immortal clan are about to arrive. What do you plan to do, senior brother? What are their intentions? The man asked. It's hard to say. Perhaps we'll know once they arrive, the woman in black robes said. Then, let's wait, said the man. They weren't in a rush. After all, they still needed to observe the 1,000 Feet Mountain. Perhaps they could gain something there. The opportunities at Heavenly Steel Mountain were for everyone, but there was a lot more freedom beyond that. Jiang Hao kept digging deeper into the mine. The mountain was vast and sloped downward, so he didn't have to worry about digging into other areas. However, the deeper he went, the more the spiritual energy was consumed. There was definitely something below, but no one knew what it was. It might be dangerous. Jiang Hao didn't want to keep digging down recklessly. He decided to first exhaust the surrounding ores before deciding. He wouldn't mind digging downward if there was a divine object below. There were rare ores present where the Xianyuan sword was located. It didn't seem like a good idea to dig downward. It would be better if he reached the Immortal Ascension platform first before digging down. From August to September, Jiang Hao continued digging. He glanced at his interface. Lifeblood, 96 out of 100 can be cultivated. Cultivation, 95 out of 100 can be cultivated. It wasn't far from advancement. Another half a month or so, and he'd make it. He walked out and handed all the ores over to Dole and Guanzhong Fei. Over the past month, they found many different markets to sell them. They had made around 50,000 spirit stones. Guanzhong Fei was surprised to find that he had begun earning spirit stones. The profits were good. Moreover, they had only sold a portion of the ores. If they sold everything, they could earn quite a lot. He came here for opportunities, and unexpectedly, opportunities arose along with the spirit stones, especially with an unrelenting miner among them who did nothing but mine. Others cultivated or searched for opportunities while he mined. Even when others rested after a long day, he kept mining. Someone having high cultivation was different, as expected. He could just go on mining. This person appeared to be virtuous. Otherwise, with such a high cultivation realm, he could have gone around pillaging and robbing others. However, that would cause a lot of trouble. Selling ores for spirit stones seemed like the most rational thing to do, especially in the Golden Core realm area and the Soul Ascension realm area. These two places were fairly safe. The only issue was that the people here were few. It slowed the sales down. If there are more people in their group, their profit would be less. They'll be mining inside for about a month, Jiang Hao said. He intended to advance inside and didn't want to be disturbed. When the time came, he would activate the Yin-Yang bracelet and make it difficult for others to enter the cave. That's great. It's perfect timing. We need to go out to sell the ores as well, said Dole. He handed Jiang Hao the 50,000 spirit stones and suggested they split them later. Given the potential risks of going out, leaving it with him would be safer. Guanzhong Fei was somewhat unwilling. He felt that once things were in Jiang Hao's hands, they would disappear. However, he didn't dare voice his opinion. Senior brother Dole is right. Jiang Hao nodded and accepted the spirit stones. Although he felt a pang of longing roar to spirit stones, and he wouldn't take Orner People's snare or LT, there was no need for that. Since the others trusted him, there was no need to betray them. After that, he turned and entered the mine. When it was time to come out, he would have advanced to the Immortal Ascension platform. To ensure safety, he buried a ring outside the mine and another one inside to prevent any accidents during his advancement. He was wary of accidents happening in the corpse realm itself. One of his worries had to do with the Endless Sea. He still didn't know what it was about, but he wanted to stay vigilant. Dole couldn't help but sigh when he watched Jiang Hao enter the cave again. Brother Sansheng really seems to love spirit stones. Otherwise, why would he mine relentlessly? Guanzhong Fei sighed. He had been worrying about his spirit stones, and now felt like he might not get them back. But with so many ores at hand, he didn't feel like he was at a loss. If he were to leave now with the ores, it would be good, but why did he suddenly inform them that he would be mining for a month? Clearly, he had some other plan. He wasn't sure what Jiang Hao was planning and didn't dare to ask. Dole might be fearless in his ignorance, but he wasn't. However, he somewhat understood why the person had made him listen to Dole. Dole was indeed a decent person, but his personality caused some trouble for himself sometimes. All he could say was that Dole was a good person, while smiling, San Sheng chose to be one. The former was a good senior, and the latter was someone who helped if a person was good and punished a person if they were bad. We should quickly sell the ores we have, Guanzhong Fei said. All right, they'll set some formations around here to prevent detection, Dole said seriously. Guanzhong Fei genuinely admired the formations Dole set up. He was curious. Senior brother Dole, have you learned the technique mentioned earlier, the stars in a palm? Smiling San Sheng had written down the steps, so he was still studying it. Dole smiled awkwardly. Not yet. ITLL take me some more time. After talking for a while, they started their work. Dole went to Moon Lake to sell the ores. Some people knew he was selling ores, while others tried to ambush him. He was always prepared. Several days later, he encountered a woman in black robes and a middle-stage Golden Core Realm man. These two had intentionally sought him out. "Do you have something to say to me?" Dole asked. "We're here to buy ores," the woman in black robes said softly. Dole nodded. After negotiating, they agreed to buy some ores for 3,000 spirit stones. As Dole was about to leave, the woman in black suddenly asked, "Who are you doing this for?" "For a senior at the 1,000-Feet Mountain," Dole said without hesitation. He always mentioned a make-believe senior to avoid trouble. The woman thanked him and didn't ask further. Then, she watched him leave. "If we tell Inshiweni that Jiang Hao is selling ores with this person, do you think she'll believe us?" the woman in black suddenly asked. "We'll only know if we try." The man chuckled. Chapter 780, Mental Demons That is Quite Troublesome. "Why don't we handle it ourselves?" asked the woman in black. "I heard she has a treasure on her. Once someone attacks or detects her aura, the people backing her might become aware of it. If you're confident that you can do it, try not to be discovered." The man chuckled. "Then, they'll let the person behind the ear handle it. Someone who dares to come out and sell ores here must not be weak. If someone captures his people and kills them, he might resort to violent means," said the woman in black. "If they don't succeed, we can just take their gains. Either way, we won't lose." The man chuckled again. "Senior brother, you have a point. Now, let's see whether Inshiweni believes us or not." The woman in black smiled. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M, the two headed to where Inshiweni was. Whether the plan succeeded or not wasn't important to them. They still had plenty of time. If necessary, there was another method. They could always spend spirit stones to hire someone to do the job. However, it was unnecessary to take direct action for now. As for who to assign the task, weren't the Fallen Immortal clan looking for someone? That would work out quite well. As for Jiang Hao, if he couldn't be used, then they could just forget him. His disappearance probably would do more harm than good. This was a dangerous place for a Golden Core Realm cultivator. They would just chalk it up to unfortunate timing if something were to happen. Soon, Inshiweni received the news. She looked at the woman in black and frowned. "Where did you get this information?" "From running errands for you. We might find him at the mines. Someone is selling ores at Moon Lake, so we can find out the location of the mine where he's at. I also heard that nobody at the mining site has a cultivation realm higher than you," said the woman in black. "Is that so?" Inshiweni looked at her. Her voice was icy. "What if you're just trying to use me? My cultivation realm speaks for itself. If I was using you, you could easily kill me," said the woman in black. "If you were to kill me here right now, I don't think I can even defend myself." Boom! Inshiweni struck the woman in front of her. Then she left. She intended to seek out the person selling ores. She didn't know if the information was accurate, but she wanted to check for herself. As for the woman in black, how dare she think I'm so naive? It was obvious she had a hidden agenda. Why would she spare her? Once Inshiweni left, the woman in black walked out from the shadow. She sighed. She's truly heartless. Let's wait until the ore seller takes her to mines. Well, follow them discreetly, the man said. After entering the cave, Jiang Hao didn't think of anything else and continued mining. He stopped after almost half a month because he received the final blue bubble. Cultivation +1. He checked the interface again. Vitality 100/100 can be cultivated. Cultivation 100/100 can be cultivated. Finally, it's time. Putting away his tools, Jiang Hao brought out the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. He strengthened the seal before sitting down and preparing for advancement. This advancement might not be as quick as before. A major boundary had to be breached, and the corpse realm was a dangerous place. He couldn't be sure what might happen during his advancement here. However, he had prepared a lot for this, so there shouldn't be anything he couldn't handle. His body was suppressed by the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. The pearl wouldn't erupt. He made sure of that. However, he wasn't sure if this would have any effect on his cultivation. With various precautions in place, he hesitated and took out some other divine items. The immortal mountain sea shield and the primordial heavenly blade were among them. This made him feel much more at ease. He closed his eyes and adjusted his state. He then began extracting his cultivation and lifeblood. In an instant, Jiang Hao felt a surge of massive spiritual energy. His body started undergoing noticeable changes. His strength increased rapidly. Jiang Hao felt the changes and constantly circulated the Hongmeng Heart Sutra. At that moment, his body was covered in purple energy and filled with the essence of Hongmeng. The power of the sutra gradually manifested. Jiang Hao emitted a mysterious aura. His brows were tightly knit. This advancement wasn't as smooth as had hoped. At that time, he maintained his true self and immersed himself completely. However, for some reason, his thoughts began to wander. Memories of his childhood, past experiences, Xiao Li's life and death, Lin Ji's regrets, Chu Chuan's efforts, and even the carefree nature of the spirit beast flashed through his mind. Other than that, he also saw Chang Chou's ordinary life and the struggles of ordinary non-cultivators in the Spirit Her Garden. In just a few decades, he had seen a lot and had been involved in many things. He could understand these emotions and could understand their pain. These emotions held him back, and his advancement became unstable. It was like a mental demon. Jiang Hao didn't know why his thoughts suddenly wandered. However, his pursuit of the cultivation path had never changed, so he calmed himself down. It wasn't about erasing his thoughts, but facing them calmly. He knew he had regrets and unresolved trauma, but people ultimately had to face them. It was unavoidable. Regardless of who they were, they had to confront these things. In a daze, he heard the sound of waves. Jiang Hao didn't know where it came from, but he couldn't act rashly. He could only face it calmly. He had to try to peacefully break through. This advancement indeed didn't happen so quickly. After 3 days of maintaining his state, everything finally calmed down, and the ascension proceeded smoothly once again. This time, there wasn't much time. Jiang Hao seemed to have broken open a door, and his power underwent a drastic transformation. A completely new force spread throughout his body. Jiang Hao opened his eyes and found that he was still in the cave. The Earth Extreme Silent Pearl was glowing. The primordial heavenly blade and other things were also there. At that moment, he sensed the power of the immortal ascension platform. He had successfully advanced to the early stage of the immortal ascension platform. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. After that, he glanced at his interface. He had no extra cultivation points to refine his newly achieved realm. He was helpless. He would have to spend another 5 days to refine his cultivation. 5 days later, Jiang Hao got up and checked his surroundings. He vividly remembered hearing the sound of waves. However, when he looked around, he didn't notice anything. His senses didn't pick up anything either. Was I almost pulled into the sea? Jiang Hao couldn't be sure. At that time, he couldn't afford any distractions, so he waited. What exactly happened? He didn't have an answer. Then, he looked at the Nine Nether. What did you see? The Nine Nether thought for a moment. Then it transformed into waves. Jiang Hao wondered if that meant that the sea had actually appeared. How did it appear? This time, the Nine Nether couldn't answer. Jiang Hao felt horrified. He hadn't noticed it. Besides, with the yin-yang bracelet on, how did the waves enter the range of protection? Chapter 781. Just getting started before entering the corpse realm, Jiang Hao understood that there were 2 types of seas. One was the corpse sea. It was a sea that would appear occasionally, but wasn't as dangerous. It was just not commonly seen. It was similar to Heavenly Steel Mountain. The other was the Endless Sea. It was a sea where one would be pulled into upon entry. Once inside, there was no escape. One couldn't enter or leave. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicronim at that time, it was uncertain whether one could even stay alive. Jiang had to know exactly what kind of sea it was. He didn't think about it any longer. Instead, he collected his things. He left behind the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. He tried to put away his belongings, and as he did so, the waves appeared. The endless sea emerged. Jiang Hao felt as if he was about to plunge into an abyss. Without hesitation, he took out the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl again. In an instant, the space became stable. The sea area gradually vanished too. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. He was curious how Gui and the others had entered the corpse realm and remained unharmed. He had just advanced to the Immortal Ascension platform. If it were above the Immortal Ascension platform, wouldn't he have fallen into the endless sea? Hiding was of no use. His ability to conceal his cultivation had surpassed numerous others. But he still needed to rely on the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl here. Perhaps I need another identity. Jiang Hao recalled that Shang En and others had used someone else's identity to enter the realm. However, Shang En's true form appeared after a while. Jiang Hao didn't know how he had managed to avoid danger then. Jiang Hao shook his head and set aside his thoughts. Shang En had prepared for many years. Perhaps there were more ways. He didn't have that much time to prepare. After packing his things, he left. The yin-yang bracelet also returned to his wrist. It was almost October. He planned to rest for a few days and then continue mining because his mind wasn't at peace. After advancing to the Immortal Ascension platform, he had gained formidable power. There was an impulse within him to challenge someone. He felt like he was invincible. Such feelings were normal. He calmed himself down. As he left the cave, his aura gradually diminished and stabilized to display his cultivation at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. He looked around but found no one. They haven't returned yet? The place was as desolate as ever, but many spirit herbs grew on the ground. Spiritual energy was also gathering densely here. Having ascended to the Immortal Ascension platform, his perception had sharpened. Coupled with the knowledge from the Nameless Manual, he could sense the aura in the mountains too. Although it was barren and dry here, there seemed to be an underlying force of mountains and rivers underground, which remained dormant and unseen, as if it was waiting for something. It didn't seem entirely natural. It felt as though it was man-made. The details were hard to understand. The perception that came with the Immortal Ascension platform wasn't enough. He needed the help of the Heaven Lock technique. From this perspective, the one who created this place was quite formidable. After waiting for a long time, he still didn't see anyone return. 3 days later, Guan Zhongfei returned with a radiant smile on his face. When he saw Jiang Hao, he stopped smiling and bowed to him. He was surprised. Although Jiang Hao still seemed to be in the middle stage of the Golden, he seemed to possess a different aura. It felt as though getting closer to him would be fatal. Did the selling of ores go well? Jiang Hao looked at him. Yes, we earned a total of 70,000 spirit stones. Guan Zhongfei presented all 70,000 spirit stones. Jiang Hao knew that they had met a big client. This reminded him of senior sister Lung Tian and senior brother Duanguan. It had been a long time since he had seen them. Now, we have a total of 120,000 spirit stones, Jiang Hao said, after dividing it. He could also earn more than 40,000 for himself. He felt wealthy again. Adding the 20,000 he already had, he would have a lot of spirit stones. Do you have September Spring on you? Jiang Hao suddenly asked. Guan Zhongfei shook his head. Jiang Hao waited for Dole to return. However, he still didn't return even after 2 days. It's time, Guan Zhongfei said. Jiang Hao nodded. Being a day or two late was normal. During this time, he had tried to study the art of forging, which was truly profound. His only regret was that he didn't seem to have a talent for it. However, it might still be useful to keep it for later. Someday, when he desired to learn it again, he could give it a try. But for now, he set it aside. Jiang Hao didn't have as much time to fuss over forging matters. After all, cultivating spirit herbs and making talismans already took up most of his time. The remaining time was covered by mining. So, there was no time to do other things. 2 more days passed. In early October, Jiang Hao still didn't see Dole. Instead, he saw some Golden Core realm cultivators. These are the same 3 people he had encountered before. It was fate. However, their arrival didn't seem like a coincidence. Dole must have run into some trouble, said Jiang Hao. He stood up and walked toward the three people. You can leave these little fries to me, said Guan Zhongfei. He intended to show off a bit. Jiang Hao shook his head. No need. Guan Zhongfei probably didn't care about Dole, so Jiang Hao didn't need to force the issue. However, Jiang Hao wanted to know the details. If he was powerless, then there was nothing he could do. If it was within his capabilities, he would do his best to save Dole. What Dole had done for him was a small matter, but he couldn't leave him in danger. He had saved Jiang Hao from the 3 Golden Core Realm cultivators before. They seemed excited to see him. It seems we found the right place. Are you here to mine? Jiang Hao asked softly. Mine. The man in the lead chuckled. Who would mine in this place? We're here to snatch your gains from mining. It seemed their guess was correct. Dole refused to speak. I guess there is no senior to speak of in this place. After all, just a bunch of golden cultivators. That's why he refused to speak. It seems he was saving other weaklings. I don't even know why Dole's sect chose him to enter this place, said the man in the lead with a sneer. Jiang Hao had already guessed that Dole had been captured, but he hadn't disclosed their location. Can you tell me where Dole is? Jiang Hao asked softly. The 3 people burst into laughter. You better consider your own fate. You still dare to... Before the man in the lead could finish his words, he felt his vision blur. Finally, with a thud, he fell to the ground. For a moment, he was dazed. Then he fainted. His blood splashed onto the other 2. They were still laughing, but now they froze in place. Can you tell me where Dole is? Asked Jiang Hao. At that moment, the 2 of them looked at Jiang Hao in disbelief. They saw that he held a blade in his hand. That blade had killed their leader. The woman charged forward angrily. How dare you, Splat? There was a slash, and the person fell to the ground. She was no longer breathing. Jiang Hao looked at the last person standing. I don't like to repeat myself. Chapter 782. We walked the same path. Jiang Hao held the half-moon blade in his hand and felt nostalgic. It had been a long time since he had clashed with anyone. Be it outside or within the sect, he rarely engaged in conflicts. In recent years, he had worked on his state of mind, or mining and cultivating spirit herbs. He quite enjoyed that kind of life. Upped on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M fighting and killing weren't good. Even if he won this time, next time could end up being his last. Losing in such situations would be catastrophic. Therefore, he avoided everything and resolved issues as quickly as possible. Since everyone who had come here wanted to challenge him, he needed to be prepared. He worried about being weaker than others. He was concerned that would put an end to his progress. It was all for him to progress a little further and become a little stronger. Whether one was right or wrong didn't matter here. Everyone was on the same path. It was all about survival. With a sigh, Jiang Hao looked at the last person standing. Even dealing with Golden Core Realm cultivators required him to put in his full effort. These people were all extraordinary, and no one knew what kind of trouble they might stir up. Let's take a walk and talk. Jiang Hao soared on his sword and swiftly crossed the distance with the Golden Core Realm cultivator before him. The Golden Core Realm cultivator felt a sense of dread. It seemed the person before him was not an ordinary cultivator in the middle stage of the Golden. He wasn't a primordial soul realm, either. He was more powerful than that. The reason they had survived last time was because Dole had saved them. Now, they had willingly walked into their doom. Although they had escaped death before, they had walked toward it again. Dole was captured by someone. There's news that Dole was selling ores for a senior, and this senior might possess a tremendous opportunity related to Heavenly Steel Mountain. The rumor was that the senior was powerful enough to control the whole mountain, and Dole was selling ores on his behalf to collect enough spirit stones to activate a hidden treasure, the man said. Jiang Hao furrowed his brow. Did anyone believe such a bizarre story? Such events have occurred, Guan Zhongfei said seriously. But it's just hearsay. It's rumored that someone from the Astronomical Academy achieved this and attracted Heavenly Steel Mountain before and advanced in a single leap. It said that he was the only one to climb Heavenly Steel Mountain then, and others couldn't enter that area because it was under his control. No one knew what he obtained, but everyone knew that his cultivation realm had advanced rapidly. He became a legend. Jiang Hao was surprised. From the Astronomical Academy? Which senior was Guan Zhongfei? Shook his head. I don't know. No one does. But everyone believed that he had the power to control a large area. So, when news was leaked, many people surely wanted to investigate. Because of this, it attracted many people. Jiang Hao asked. Yes, and Dole became an informant. People wonder who might be behind Dole. We know that Dole can't do anything like that. Otherwise, why would someone be interested in someone like Dole? Said the man disdainfully. He thought of something and looked at Jiang Hao. It did seem that Dole had the attention of a senior. Where is Dole now? Jiang Hao asked. He was captured by a powerful person. Rumors suggest that this senior has already obtained the location of the treasure. Then, she was besieged. She hasn't obtained it yet. She left Dole in an open space so anyone could interrogate him. She wants to remain clear of suspicion. However, Dole truly is tight-lipped. I heard that he remained silent even when his limbs were broken, said the man in admiration. Are the people still there? Guan Zhongfei asked. Some left, but some felt there might be a possibility of the person behind all this showing up. Also, Dole had quite a lot of ores and spirit stones on him, so everyone's eyes were on him, the man said. Jiang Hao fell silent. However, his speed increased. This time, even Guan Zhongfei felt a chill from Jiang Hao. He was unbelievably fast. 2 days later, Jiang Hao arrived at the edge of Moon Lake. There were quite a few people there, and their cultivation realms were not low. Where is he being held? Jiang Hao asked a nearby Golden Core realm cultivator. Over there, said the person and pointed. Jiang Hao flew over. It was a forest with chaotic signs of struggle, but apart from a few individuals in the middle, Dole was nowhere to be seen. Jiang Hao sighed. He would have to ask others. He glanced at a middle-aged man, who also returned his gaze. He was at the peak of the Soul Ascension realm. Excuse me, do you know where Dole is? Jiang Hao asked. Why are you looking for him? The middle-aged man looked at Jiang Hao. He's in my team. You've captured him, so naturally, I've come to take him back, Jiang Hao said calmly. Your team? The middle-aged man was taken aback. You were the one controlling the area with the treasure? Jiang Hao smirked and nodded. Yes, that's me. Something flickered in the middle-aged man's eyes, and those around him were also astonished. Guan Zhongfei was dumbfounded. He knew this wasn't true. Jiang Hao was deliberately provoking people. Is that so? Yes. So, can you tell me where Dole is? Jiang Hao asked. Can I see the treasure? The middle-aged man's aura expanded. At that point, being at the peak of the Soul Ascension realm made him the strongest person around. However, Jiang Hao's fan appeared in his hand, and his figure vanished. He reappeared in front of the middle-aged man. The fan poised against the man's shoulder. An invisible wind blade sliced open the man's neck, and blood spurted out. Do you still want to see it? Jiang Hao asked. The middle-aged man's heart raced. He didn't dare act rashly. Do you know where Dole is? I know. He was taken into the lake. Someone wanted to use him to find the location of someone you're associated with. Jiang Hao nodded and headed toward the center. He didn't take anyone with him. In the center of the lake, a group of people surrounded Dole. He seemed unconscious. Shiweni frowned. She hadn't expected things to turn this way. What was previously about finding a Golden Core Realm cultivator had turned into a situation involving a group of Soul Ascension Realm cultivators. She couldn't leave either because these people still suspected that she knew something. As for the treasure controlling a certain area, she hadn't even heard of it. Using Dole should have been in her favor. However, things had escalated, and it made her have second thoughts about the whole thing. But when she wanted to retreat, others didn't allow it. Everyone, it's worth trying. If there really is a treasure controlling an area, everyone knows the kind of benefit we'll get from it, a young man said. He held a compass in his hand, and a formation extended beneath his feet. 6 Soul Ascension Realm cultivators and 8 Golden Core Realm cultivators joined forces. They believed they couldn't find the person backing Dole. The person hasn't shown themselves right now, but if we find them, will surely find more opportunities, said a soul ascension realm woman. Hasn't shown themselves, have they? Said an amused voice came from behind. Why would I hide? Am late because I wasn't informed about this. Everyone felt a chill. The man in the lead attempted to turn to look, but a blade pierced through his chest. Don't you know interfering in other people's business gets you killed? Jiang Hao pulled out the blade from the body and smiled at everyone. You captured my man and tortured him. Am not unreasonable. You all shared one goal. Now we tread the same path. Chapter 783. Those who are evil will meet their doom. Jiang Hao's sudden appearance disrupted everyone's plans. Moreover, his attack left everyone trembling with fear. A soul ascension realm cultivator at his peak was killed and couldn't even muster up the power to defend himself. Such a powerful person scared everyone. Everyone began to retreat and avoid Jiang Hao. Only the person who was lying with his blood staining the lake was unmoving. Who are you? Asked the soul ascension realm woman. Weren't you all looking for me? Jiang Hao ignored them and walked to Dole's side. Dole's limbs weren't working, and he was on the brink of death. Even his cultivation showed signs of decline. It was halfway ruined. Jiang Hao sighed and waved his hand, and a purple aura entered Dole's body. It protected his meridians and nourished his body. Then he looked at the others. He was surprised to see that they hadn't fled. Friend, you should know that once cultivators beyond the soul ascension realm exert too much power in this place, they'll face catastrophes. Even if you have remarkable abilities, you can't deal with us all. Why not bring out that treasure and share it with us? Asked a man. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M. Jiang Hao smiled. The treasure is on me. You can come and try to take it. The group of people hesitated. They didn't want to fall into his trap. Since that's the case, they'll make the first move, said Jiang Hao with a smile. In an instant, he was beside the man who had just spoken. He struck him. The man had already prepared his defensive magic treasure. It's useless. Although your strength is formidable, my magic treasure is stronger. You might break through it using your full strength, but you'll also be devoured by the corpse realm, the young man said confidently. Before he could finish his words, a beam of moonlight flashed past. At that moment, his confidence faltered. He felt his own power disappearing. Soon after, his body split apart and dropped into the lake. He couldn't even understand how he had died. Jiang Hao looked at the man apologetically. Your treasure might not have been fully activated. Then he turned to the others. Many began to flee. Senior, moonlight flashed, and Jiang Hao beheaded the speaker. We agreed to leave together, didn't we? A person should have integrity at least, said Jiang Hao indifferently. The crowd was terrified. Soon, some of them started to fight back. Friend, if you spare us, we'll spare you. We come from influential backgrounds. There's no need to be this aggressive. Someone tried to reason with Jiang Hao. Step back and show some mercy. At that moment, someone tried to puzzle Jiang Hao back. Various spells and attacks came at him. Jiang Hao smiled. Are Golden Core Realm cultivators not worthy of your mercy? He blocked various spells and attacks effortlessly. Friend, his background is not that influential, and his cultivation is weak. This place isn't suitable for him. Since he's here, he must be prepared. Without background or talent, he's different from you and me. Even if he dies, it's just natural for him, said someone. Jiang Hao nodded. That made sense. Then he walked over to her side and used the mountain suppression technique. The person's vitality dissipated with one slash, and her body shattered. Jiang Hao looked at her. You've misunderstood something. His SEC, his background, that doesn't matter. They're not his lifeline. I am. He is under smiling Sansheng's protection and is free to roam around Moon Lake as he pleases. You provoked him. You asked for this. In an instant, Jiang Hao brandished his sword, and the wind surged. Blood splattered wherever the blade passed. For a moment, everyone was horrified. They looked at Jiang Hao in fear. They tried to persuade him. They even tried to explain their influential background to make him stop. Some fled the scene. However, it was all in vain. One by one, bodies fell into the lake from Jianghao's strikes. Watching this from afar, Guan Zhongfei was petrified. He didn't dare make a move. He was afraid of offending the person in the lake. Luckily, he had understood from the start and had never tried to target Dole. Dole was an ordinary cultivator in terms of talent, but he had met someone far more powerful than anyone else could fathom. Guan Zhongfei lowered his head. He couldn't watch any longer. These people gathered by the lake weren't weak. They were strong individuals, and yet, smiling Sansheng murdered them without breaking a sweat. This person looked amiable, but was crazy. Those who treated him kindly saw his generosity, while those who treated him badly met their doom. In just a short while, most people had died and fallen into the lake. Some people tried to run, but couldn't. At that moment, only Yin Xuanyi was still standing. Jiang Hao looked at her. "Are you the one who captured Dole?" "I didn't mean to offend you, Senior. I was merely looking for someone. They were the ones looking for some treasure." "Senior, I was pressured into it," Yin Xuanyi said nervously. She truly hadn't expected things to escalate like this. It was supposed to be just about finding a certain golden core realm cultivator. "Why did you capture Dole?" Jiang Hao asked. A rumored treasure couldn't just appear out of thin air. There must have been someone behind the scenes manipulating the whole thing. "I just wanted to know the location of a golden core realm cultivator from him," said Yin Xuanyi. "And you assumed this golden core realm cultivator was associated with Dole?" "I don't know. Someone told me about it." "Who was it?" "I don't know her name, but I killed her." Jiang Hao frowned. "You cannot kill me, Senior. I have a treasure on me. If you kill me, my grandfather will sense it, and it won't be good for you," Yin Xuanyi said pleadingly. "Is that so?" Jiang Hao was surprised. He ended her life with one slash. A person should always be honest and without bias. If he left her alive after killing everyone else, wouldn't that look unfair? He closed his eyes and began to sense his surroundings. If someone was using Yin Xuanyi, they must be nearby. The person was remarkable. They had manipulated so many people into believing a lie. It reminded him of someone. He wondered if they were connected. After a moment, he opened his eyes. Found them. On the other side, the woman in black robes and the young man looked astonished. They were observing the situation on the lake's surface using their treasures. Yin Xuanyi was killed. The situation has escalated beyond our expectations. "At least, we completed the mission," said the young man in relief. "Yeah, that person who suddenly appeared is indeed strong, but what's the use? In the end, they became our pawns," the woman in black robes said with a bright smile. Suddenly, a blade appeared near her neck. She froze. Chapter 784. Bloodbath. This sudden attack left the woman in black robes speechless. The young man beside her was taken aback. He hadn't noticed anything at all. How had the person discovered them so fast? "Friend, let's talk. We were just passing by and got curious. We were just peeking to see what was happening there." "We didn't mean to offend you," said the woman in black robes. "Yeah, we were just passing through. We didn't mean to offend. Please don't get angry. It's just a misunderstanding. If there is something we can do, well, do it," said the young man. He wore a black robe with blue patterns and looked rather extraordinary. He exuded a mysterious charm. He seemed to possess unique powers and extraordinary strength. He looked remarkable. Jiang Hao glanced at him and smiled. Misunderstanding. Although he hadn't heard everything, he knew these people were trying to fool him. "Yes, it's all a misunderstanding. Senior, please don't act rashly," the woman in black robes said fearfully. Without hesitation, Jiang Hao slashed down and the woman collapsed. After that, he quietly watched the body on the ground. He chuckled. "This technique is quite interesting. The body wasn't the real one. It was borrowed." Although the aura was muddled, Jiang Hao could sense that someone else was controlling this body from the shadows. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M, and that person was nearby. "Why don't you come out?" Jiang Hao smiled. There was no escape. Not only did he have the heavenly cauldron, but also the yin-yang bracelet. There was no way in or out. "Friend, how about I help you find her? Can you spare me?" The young man asked with a smile. Isn't she your fellow sect member? Jiang Hao asked. Fellow sect member? Friend, you must be joking. Someone who doesn't even know there's a treasure on Ian Sweeney's body. How could that person be my fellow sect member? I presume my fellow sect members are already dead. I've chosen to withhold that truth since her goals somewhat align with mine, said the young man. He was called Ku Hu San, a true disciple of the Heavenly Gate sect. He was in the early stage of return to Void Realm. By the way, this person seems to be in league with the fallen immortal clan. They exchange a lot of messages in secret. Those people are about to arrive. Friend, you'd better deal with her and leave as soon as possible, Ku Hu San said kindly. He knew how strong this person was. He knew he was no match for him. If he could escape somehow, that would be great. After all, this person didn't seem that bad. He was saving people and standing up for others too. Therefore, he could be easily influenced. Although he was one of the instigators behind the scenes, he hadn't taken any direct action. If this person was good, now would be the time to make him pay. He could abandon the others. Friend, I can still offer. A blade plunged into his heart without any hesitation. You must feel great trying to play a game with me, right? Jiang Hao stared at the person. Now, you should also feel the blade. Otherwise, your life will be full of regrets. He withdrew the blade and cut the body in two. Ku Hu Sen looked at the person before him in horror. He had never expected that all his preparations were useless. He couldn't defend against this opponent at all. Jiang Hao took the storage treasure. He would return later to take the storage treasures of the others. Killing the enemy was important, and spirit stones were important too. Although he wanted to take the storage treasures, he had to make sure his surroundings were safe first. The people here weren't weak. After collecting the storage treasure, Jiang Hao walked step by step toward the woods. The skills from the Nameless Manual and the Heaven Lock technique weren't something others could attain. He arrived in front of a tree. Why hide from me? I heard you prepared a gift too. Am here to collect it? Jiang Hao took out the last tranquil heart fruit and ate it. This is really the last one. However, the tree didn't react at all because it had turned into an ordinary tree. With a flicker, Jiang Hao appeared in front of another tree. Your technique has some flaws. I discovered it so quickly, Jiang Hao said. He had identified the person. It was a clone of Feng Hua. He hadn't made a move because he was waiting. Feng Hua had sent 3 avatars this time, along with one leading a group of the fallen immortal clan. He didn't want to bother with the fallen immortal clan. He was waiting for a Notner avatar. There was no way in or out of here, and even the avatar's memories were cut off. There was no way in or out. The yin-yang bracelet was truly impressive. Jiang Hao extended his hand and struck the ground. With a bang, the woman in black robes was knocked out of the tree. She coughed out some blood and looked at Jiang Hao. Senior, why target me? And just a puppet. A puppet. Jiang Hao nodded slightly. I see. You have no purpose then. I can help, Senior, the woman in black robes said earnestly. In that case, I'll have to trouble you a little. Jiang Hao raised the half-moon blade and struck down. Blood splattered. Jiang Hao stabbed twice more. This time it's all over. After collecting the storage treasures, Jiang Hao walked outside. Others had also arrived. Once he took care of all of them, he could mine in peace. It was quite troublesome to handle them one by one. On the other side, a middle-aged man furrowed his brow. 2 powerful cultivators followed behind him. They were almost at their limits. With their precious possession, they could use all their power. You said there's news about Jiang Shaoli here? A woman asked. Yes, just ahead. The middle-aged man pointed forward. At that moment, they all saw a figure approach. The middle-aged man started silently and stepped back. Shortly after, a tremendous power erupted in the woods. There was a flash of a blade. Moments later, the 2 fallen immortal clan members looked at the man in front of them in disbelief. The pearl in his hand made them feel horrified. After beheading the 2 people, Jiang Hao approached the middle-aged man. It's been too long, Feng Hua, he said with a smile. Where's the gift you promised me? They'll come out and ask you for it myself. I just don't know if you can receive this message. The blade rose and fell. The middle-aged man glared at Jiang Hao. After a while, Jiang Hao left with Dole from Moon Lake. The news quickly spread. Moon Lake was dyed red with the blood of numerous soul ascension realm cultivators. Those who heard the news dared not act rashly here. And Dole, the cause of everything, was known to everyone. Dole, our junior brother? Disciples from the Mountain River Valley sect couldn't believe it. In just a month, Dole became a person no one dared to provoke. Rumors spread that someone had slaughtered the Soul Ascension Realm experts because they had threatened Dole. Chapter 785. Striking it rich, Jiang Hao returned to the 1,000-feet mountain. He placed Dole on the side to allow him time to recover. The matter at Moon Lake was over, but the impact of it would be significant. It seemed someone was spreading rumors in secret. Otherwise, things wouldn't have come to this. It must have been Feng Hua's backup plan. She didn't know the details, so she blamed everything on Dole. In that way, the deaths at Moon Lake would be assumed to be connected to Dole. Once he left this place, Dole would be in danger. That was something Jiang Hao couldn't control. Let alone in the western region, it would be challenging to ensure his safety even in the southern region. At present, all Jiang Hao could do was provide him as much safety as he could. Guan Zhongfei also felt that Dole would be in danger. Although no one dared to provoke Dole in the corpse realm, it was different outside. Update on Biomicron X0VL. Siomicron M, even his sect, wouldn't be able to protect him. As for smiling Sansheng, he didn't seem to belong to the western region. Being so far apart made it impossible to keep Dole safe. No matter how strong, there was nothing he could do. Killing a golden core realm cultivator was so simple, especially for those sects in the western region. So many had died because of Dole this time. If they couldn't find smiling Sansheng, they would target Dole. Guan Zhongfei sighed as he watched Dole recover. He hoped that Dole could escape this problem. However, there was too much for him to handle. As a golden core realm cultivator, he was just too ordinary. Jiang Hao started to inspect the storage treasures of the other people. He had picked up about a dozen or 20 storage treasures. He wondered how many spirit stones he would get. These people had decent cultivation realms, had influential backgrounds, and were individuals with considerable influence in their sections. He checked the first storage treasure. Whose is this? There were several pills and several spirit stones. That was it. Does it belong to Feng Hua's avatar? It shouldn't be anyone else besides her. The second one was the same. It probably belonged to another avatar. Feng Hua didn't like to let others benefit. There were some items in the third storage treasure, but not much. There was a peculiar 9-ring blade. It was a golden core realm treasure. There were also 3,000 spirit stones and some golden core pills. The fourth one had 11,000 spirit stones, a primordial spirit realm spirit sword, and numerous pills. Jiang Hao continued to go through the storage treasures. He found that these people had some spirit stones. After examining all the storage treasures, Jiang Hao realized he had struck a gold mine. There were a total of 226,894 spirit stones. There were 3 Soul Ascension Realm magical treasures, 5 Primordial Soul Realm magical treasures, 9 Golden Core Realm magical treasures, and various ordinary treasures. These items were priceless. Aside from the pills, there were numerous cultivation techniques as well. These could only be sold as spirit herbs. None were worth keeping in Jiang Hao's collection. 226,000 spirit stones. How should I spend it? He didn't dare to sell the magical treasures yet. He would attempt to sell them when he went overseas or to the eastern region. Otherwise, he would be targeted easily. It wasn't worth the risk. If he sold all the magical treasures, Hong Yia would be able to drink September Spring every time she visited. Using all the spirit stones for some high-grade spirit herbs was also a good choice. However, now that he had advanced to the Immortal Ascension platform, the effectiveness of even high-grade spirit herbs would diminish. He didn't know how many blue bubbles 100 spirit herbs would bring him. Presently, he had 20,000 spirit stones on hand. He had picked up 226,000 more. He also had 120,000 spirit stones from selling ores. That totaled 360,000 spirit stones. However, 120,000 spirit stones needed to be shared with the others. There would still be spirit stones to be earned in the future. Having so many spirit stones suddenly made Jiang Hao feel a bit weird. He didn't know what to think. He had never received so many spirit stones before. He remained in place for a long time. Then, he got up and went to mine. He asked Guan Zhongfei to look after Dole. 1 month later, Jiang Hao walked out of the mine with a desolate look. The earnings had drastically decreased. There had only been 7 blue bubbles in a month. Previously, there used to be 15 or 16. At this rate, it would take 2 or 3 years of mining to advance to the middle stage. Advancing further would be even slower. However, compared to others, it was still astonishing that he had reached this state. At 36 years old, he was at the early stage of the Immortal Ascension platform. He didn't dare reveal this to others. Although he had surpassed the top 10 disciples of the sect, and even most disciples beyond that, it was still not enough. Even a simple branch master could end his life. It would be better to wait and get stronger. Is Dole awake? Jiang Hao handed over the oars to Guan Zhongfei. No, Guan Zhongfei said. Dole had recovered. Jiang Hao had given him many spirit herbs, and now they were just waiting for the purple aura to awaken his golden core. His cultivation had been affected, but luckily, his realm remained intact. He would recover fairly quickly. Despite having so many spirit herbs and even the protection of the purple aura around his heart meridian, it barely maintained his cultivation base. It was evident that Dole's injuries were severe. After sending Guan Zhongfei off to sell the ores, Jiang Hao received a message on his stone tablet. There was a gathering tonight. It's been so long. Finally, Jiang Hao sighed. There was a chance he could save Dole, but he could only do his best. He could only do what he could. The last gathering hadn't revealed anything significant. However, it was best to review what they had discussed before and prepare. Outside the blood-tied forest, the woman in black robes appeared. Esteemed seniors, you can go in and take a look. If the information is correct, Jiang Shao Li should be inside. At that moment, the 2 men gazed at the blood-tied forest and frowned. They felt something strange about this forest. The aura inside was chaotic, as if something terrible was trying to break out. But upon careful consideration, there didn't seem to be anything outwardly wrong. Is this really the Foundation establishment area? He Xing asked. He felt that this place was bizarre. His task was to capture Jiang Shaoli. However, this didn't seem like a place where Jiang Shaoli would stay. The corpse realm only has one Foundation establishment area. This is the place, said the woman in black confidently. Let's go and take a look, He Lian said. He Lian appeared to be in his 40s and looked sturdier. He Xing, in his late 20s, showed no hint of fear. They couldn't afford to fail this mission. It was just a Foundation establishment realm cultivator. If they couldn't capture her, then who in the entire corpse realm could? The 2 entered the blood-tied forest. The woman in black stood outside. She turned and smiled as she looked into the distance. After that, she followed them inside. She wanted to see Jiang Shao Li begging for mercy helplessly as she was captured. She planned to send that to Jiang Hao if he was still alive. She hadn't received any news from him yet. It would be a pity if he were dead. After all, she needed Jiang Hao. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.